Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. This is your host, Mongo Slade. Today, we're going to be doing a Q&A, which was my main uh, thing when I sat down here today when I, initially plugged this thing. It was just going to be a Q&A. But then, and this is the reason why I'm late, if we're being honest, I stumbled upon an article from Jacobin magazine. It is a socialist magazine. And this socialist magazine decided to target WWE. So I can't not do it. I have to get into that. So we definitely gonna have to get into that. I still have the article pulled up. We're gonna do what we can on the Ariel Helwani stuff. I actually haven't put together a lot of information on that, but we're gonna do what we can there. We're gonna try to see what we can glean out of this. I did not listen to the Ariel Helwani Tony Khan interview. I just didn't think it was interesting enough. But we're definitely going to get into it. Thanks everybody for the 2,000 subs. Everybody, I really appreciate it. When I first started doing this thing, I did not expect anybody to care. So we got 2,000 people. So that goes to show that, one guy, people could listen to them. Darren Gordon Hill, I did see the new piece. Thank you very much. I may have to find out a way to download YouTube videos and I would play it on a live stream or something like that. But since we already have probably more people now than I had before we get into the Q&A, I want to do the Jacobin magazine thing because this really, it made me laugh. It made me laugh hard way. Like I laughed really good. So those of you who don't know, and I hate to do this, but it's a fact. If you don't know what Jacobin magazine is, Jacobin magazine is an admittedly socialist magazine. And they decided to post an article October 13th, 2022. In the WWE, wrestlers say labor abuses are everywhere. It's written by a guy named Tim Gill. So Tim Gill, for those of you who want to know, is an assistant professor of sociology at the University of Tennessee. So a socialist sociology professor. Well, that's like saying a feline tiger, So there is no difference there. There's no surprise there. Now, I did not have time to do any type of research. I didn't even read this whole thing all the way through. I skimmed it. Now, we will be getting into Q&A, I promise, because I don't have to go to work tomorrow, so we have a lot of time. But we're going to get into this. I'm not going to read this whole thing because a lot of it is stuff that we've been through before. Chris Benoit, Owen Hart, that kind of stuff. It gets interesting over a couple of, maybe, 10, 15 paragraphs in. It says, yet despite existing barriers to unionization, WWE talents are acutely aware of their exploitation. Okay. They know they aren't receiving a generous deal from a kind CEO. Instead, according to my conversation with several current and former pro wrestlers, several of whom wish to remain anonymous to avoid being punished in the wrestling world, sure, that's their favorite one. Oh, well, they choose not to, go on record because they might get punished. For what? If calling out exploitation is a punishment, if you're going to get punished for that, that's a good punishment to take. That's like saying, well, I got molested, but I was afraid I was going to say something. It's like, well, the damage is already done. If you already getting made fun of, if you already, getting exploited, what's the worst that could happen? You get fired. You get fired from an exploitative job. I wouldn't mind to get fired from an exploitative job. Yes, Bearcat Keithley is absolutely correct. It's the anonymous Raw general manager feeding information to a socialist magazine. This is hilarious. He says these anonymous wrestlers remain hopeful that one day unionization might transpire. That is, if they can build up solidarity and ensure those at the top of the roster have their back. Oh, really? A recently released WWE wrestler told me, I think everyone would want a union. Yet she believes that the wrestlers would need, quote, someone of a high stature in the company to get the ball rolling and to be a leader, to get everyone else behind it. Oh, no. Hey, we would love to have a union. By gosh, if only you could get Brock Lesnar to sign up for that. If only we could get Roman Reigns to sign up for our unionization efforts. Yeah, right. Okay, so they talk about the unionization effort of Jesse Ventura, which everybody knows the story of. That Vince killed that one. He put a knife in that. But the wrestler that went on record because he doesn't care about getting blackballed, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell of the Killer Bees. Says Jim Brunzell, who wrestled for the WWF for the greater part of the years 1985 to 1993 with the famed tag team Killer Bees, Stephanie McMahon's favorite tag team apparently, told me that he estimated Hulk Hogan making upwards of $50,000 per week, including merchandise and all other sales, while Brunzell and others were making about $5,000 per week. In addition, Brunzell claims that Hogan was making a significant portion of their gate sales as well as high commissions from WWE pay-per-views. Does that sound like somebody who's being exploited? Hulk Hogan is making $50,000 a week, according to Jumpin' Jim Brunzell. For starters, that's probably too much money, right? Because $50,000 a week times 52 weeks, that's a lot of fucking money. All right? That's a lot of money. Now, if you're making $5,000 a week, you're still making quite a bit of money because most people don't make that kind of money today, right? But this is, of course, all Jim Brunzell. He's the one who went on record and started doing this, started talking about this crap, right? So he's talking about this crap and basically trying to play the game that WWE is. I know. What a big surprise. Hulk Hogan makes 10 times, 20 times, 100 times the money Jumpin' Jim Brunzell is because guess who? Guess who would notice if Hulk Hogan wasn't there? Literally everybody. Guess who would not notice if Jim Brunzell was there? Literally everybody. Most people couldn't pick the Killer Bees out of a goddamn lineup. You could have both of them and say which one of them is Jim Brunzell. 99% of people would just guess and say, this guy, and be wrong. And not even know the name of the other guy. All right? So, substantially more money. John Cena makes substantially more money than Jimmy Wang Yang, and I wonder why. It's a Scooby-Doo mystery. It's a Scooby-Doo mystery why this thing is happening. We gotta chase the ghost and rip the mask off. This is stupid. This is dumb. These are Hogan was making all this stuff because he was drawing all this shit. Jim Brunzell did not mention at all that he wouldn't be making $5,000 a week if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. If Hulk Hogan wasn't the one selling the tickets, selling the merchandise on the cover of the video games and the action figures and all that shit, you wouldn't even have $5,000 a week. Whatever you was making in the AWA, and I'm enough of a nerd to know that Jim Brunzell worked in the AWA. Whatever he was making there, he should have stayed there. If he was making more money in AWA, why didn't he stay there? Oh, he moved to the WWF because he was making more money in the WWF. Absolutely. Oh, good God. Let's continue. Such pay disparities irritated many of the wrestlers in the locker room. Oh, jealousy. Oh, so now jealousy is a good reason to what? Screw Hulk Hogan? Take all the money that he actually earned for the company? And you're writing an article about exploitation. You're writing an article about exploitation. Jim Brunzell adds nothing to the product. He adds nothing. He's literally eating, as Darren Gordon Hill says, he's literally eating the crumbs off of Hogan's plate. Hogan is the one drawing all this money. Jim Brunzell's lucky to be in the locker room. But the pay disparities, oh my goodness, people are going to be upset. Somebody gonna get mad. Somebody is jealous that Hulk Hogan makes that much money, so he gonna go tell the socialist magazine, Hulk Hogan's making all this kind of money, but the most of us, we weren't making nothing. Yeah, goodness. Oh, goodness. He probably shitting emeralds how green he is on the inside from Hulk Hogan's success. Okay, let's continue. Many of them had the same grueling schedule that Hogan had, and yet were paid much less. Uh, no explanation why. Many wrestlers took no time off and traveled endlessly. It's almost like you were a wrestler. And every wrestling promotion has a grueling schedule except AEW and TNA. All right? And maybe Ring of Honor. In the 80s and 90s, especially in the 80s, all of the territories, you went from state to state to state to state and back again. You were constantly driving, constantly going from place to place, and not nearly making enough money. Most of these guys were indeed not making a lot of money. You know, this is ridiculous. Here's an actual quote from Jumpin' Jim Brunzell. Vince wanted to work us to the bone, and for 3.5 years he did. My tag team partner Brian and I averaged 27 days a month on the road. That means you worked a lot. Okay. Even the pilots who regularly saw the WWE wrestlers on the planes in the 80s were alarmed by how much they traveled. I told this one pilot I was flying 25 days a month at a time. Brunzell recalls, he said, that's not good for you. The pilots don't even fly that much. Well, the pilot is the one operating the vehicle. You're in the vehicle, sleep. And, like I'm pretty sure you'll be all right. Operating the vehicle versus just sitting in the vehicle, that's two different levels of, good Lord, socialists. Their brain dead. Let's So they go into the Jesse Ventura thing. Well, of course, we know that Vince killed the Jesse Ventura thing. So we already know that, so we can skip some of this. But he's writing this out because they're targeting a certain audience. So we skip that. It says amid the global pandemic, more intensified controls over WWE talent, calls to unionize have once again been heard, with labor lawyer Lucas Middlebrook and former presidential candidate businessman Andrew Yang seeking to assist wrestlers should they want their help. Andrew Yang. Grifter's going to grift. Everybody do me a favor. Go to Hotep Jesus and make sure you go. I think he's got. I don't know if the grifties are up yet. If the grifties are up, please go and vote for Andrew Yang on the grifties. If not, nominate him. He deserves it. In May 2022, Yang tweeted that WWE wrestlers were, quote, long overdue for a union, and they could contact Middlebrook to discuss how they, quote, can help you and yours get what you actually bringing in for the organization to take care of your family. Oh, really? Because they're paid in hamburgers and nickels, apparently. These people who are, they're not making no money. Oh, I can't wait till we get to the exclamation point. The one thing that made me decide to do this video. Oh, God. Randy Savage could have done Hogan better than Hogan. Dave knows wrestling. No, he for real said this. Dave knows wrestling. Dave knows wrestling. I know that's a YouTube account. I think I may have seen maybe one or two of his videos. I can't remember like what he sounded like off the top of my head though. Okay, so they talk about Zelina Vega, where she was talking about unionization, and everybody thought it was dead and she was going to be done with. It says, perhaps puzzling is suspected control, WWE talent are still considered independent contractors. Most independent contractors have the ability to work wherever they wish, given this sort of classification. Yet, somehow, the WWE has been legally able to use this classification, all the while exerting widespread control over their contractors. Indeed, abusing independent contractor status is a common tactic that other corporations, such as Uber and Lyft, use to deny workers' rights. One anonymous former WWE wrestler told me, right now, if you're a professional wrestler for the WWE, you basically sign away your rights and hope that you're one of the 5 people that gets picked to be the face of the company, at least for a small moment in your life. That's that's a current wrestler or that's a former WWE wrestler. Who could that be? We don't know. Scooby Doo mystery. Middlebrook is hoping that his and Yang's efforts will catalyze a newfound push. Okay. Um, Middlebrook, ambulance chasing lawyer. Now, this is an actually interesting thing because this is about COVID, right? This is something that we've never really talked about before. It says, as the pandemic unfolded, the world ground to a halt. One of the few entertainment outfits to continue, though, was the WWE and its rival AEW, with each filming out of their respective locations in Florida. The WWE claimed to have a proper testing protocol in place, but talent and employees were continually contracting the virus. Well, there were a lot of people contracting the virus. It's not like, WWE could have done something to prevent people from contracting the virus. Levi Cooper, who wrestled for the WWE under the name Tucker, primarily as one half of the blue-collar tag team Heavy Machinery, revealed to me how, quote, there was no real testing protocols or anything put in place until there was a big outbreak. He says there was the moment he realized that the WWE, as a, quote, corporate power structure, cared little for its actual workers and their health. At that juncture, this is Tucker talking now, I personally felt like, hey, it'll continue to run this TV show no matter what the cost is. That made me feel like the TV show is more important than I am as an individual and my safety. I don't think I ever really recovered from that, the way I was feeling about the company. Well, how about this, sir? I put this on the barbecue. Let's see if it cooks. If the company ceases to operate, you cease to be paid. You cease to have a job, and so do all the other people around you. Is that the better option? Is the better option to say, we're going to take all the WWE off the television and we're going to break our contracts and therefore not get the rights fees that were owed, therefore not be able to pay you what we promised that we were going to pay you. Thus, we're probably going to end up having to cut people. They cut people anyway because they weren't making ticket sales and merchandising. Everything fell through a goddamn massive black hole. But the other option is for people to get paid to do nothing, which is not going to happen. And anywhere that it actually did happen, it backfired. So they weren't going to pay you to sit at home. This idea that you were going to get paid to sit at home, no. Secondly, if I remember correctly, Tucker actually got cut during one of those rounds of cuts during the pandemic. So he continues. Cooper says that was the point he felt he needed to speak up for the well-being of other wrestlers. He says he wrote, quote, a pretty long email about some things that I was uncomfortable with about the COVID protocols. While some changes resulted, several months later, Cooper was released with WWE citing budget cuts as the rationale. Oh, they cut 25 people, but, he got cut because he sent in a note about the COVID protocols. Well, that's just... It's a conspiracy against Tucker. Don't you get it? It's a conspiracy against Big Tuck. It's a conspiracy. They trying to hold him down. He dared to complain about the COVID protocols, most of which was changing every goddamn week at that point. It's like for a while they could barely test people because the tests weren't really all that accurate. It's just a lot of different stuff that's going around with COVID and the testing, but they did what they could. The wrestlers, of course, would go out and hang out and party, which we saw pictures of. We saw them having birthday parties in the middle of the pandemic. They were going on boat rides in the middle of the pandemic. Of course, there were outbreaks. It didn't have nothing to do with whether the company was doing the best that they could. It was all about the performers, the independent contractors, the individuals that they're supposed to be standing up for. These people made the decision to go to birthday parties and to hang out on yachts. That's what they were doing. And when a lot of them caught COVID, when NXT had like a big COVID outbreak, I think it was around somebody's birthday. Somebody had a birthday party or something like that, and a bunch of people from NXT got COVID, and then a couple people in AEW even caught COVID from this birthday party. There's tons of people at these birthday parties because they didn't give a shit. They were down there in Florida. They were just doing their thing. Of course, that would be completely and totally scissored out of this thing is how the wrestlers themselves, as autonomous human beings, went out there and did whatever they wanted and caught COVID. All right. It's not like they went to work and caught COVID and everybody in the building had COVID. They went to play and caught COVID. And it was considered, and this happened numerous times. In fact, this is why some people started getting punished because they started going out. They got caught taking pictures without masks on and all that kind of shit. And WWE was trying to be low key as people complained about this stuff. This was stupid. It was stupid. Let's continue. Workers attest to feeling alienated within the company. They say they feel replaceable and unable to exert any creative influence on the direction of their characters. Instead, they have felt beholden to McMahon and his production team, lest they find themselves out of work. Hey, do what I tell you to do because I'm paying you, or I'm going to fire you. Your creativity, not paying for that. I'm paying for you to do what I ask you to do. If I hire you to be a cashier at Walmart, if I hire you to paint my walls, if I hire you to cut my grass, I do not care about your goddamn creative vision. Do what the fuck I asked you to do the way I asked you to do it, please. All right? Sometimes I don't care. I want you to go paint this. I hire people to paint my mama's bedroom and stuff like that. Just paint it whatever color she wants it to paint it. But if she wants you to do a certain thing, you are expected to do it. You are expected to do it. A guy, contractor, recently tried to put a rail outside my mom's steps, right? Concrete steps. He comes and he builds a mound of quikrete, a mound of quick drying cement, and put the fucking rail in it. Okay? Just put it. That's not how you put a rail on the stairs. That's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. Okay? He exercised his own creative vision. She went outside. My mom is 63. Okay? And she pulled it out of the ground. It was rickety and it was wobbling. She was able to pull it out of the ground. If she would have tried to walk on those steps, especially, I'm just thankful it's October and not December. Because if it had been slippery on those steps and my mom touched that goddamn rail and it fell apart, I'd have killed that motherfucker. You do what she asked you to do, not what you want to do. She said drill the fucking holes in the concrete, do it that way. He built fucking anthills of fucking concrete and thought, well, that's good enough. He's a moron. Just do what she asked you to do. Okay? This is crazy shit. This is crazy shit. Just do what people ask you to do, man. You're not an employee. All right? But if I'm paying you for a service, I expect that service to be the way that I want it. I don't just go to McDonald's and say, hey, I'll order a Big Mac, and then they just do their own fucking thing. They give me a quarter pounder because that's what they feel like I need today. Like, no, I want a fucking Big Mac. Man, we're out of Big Macs. Here's a double fillet of fish. Like, wait a minute, I'm not paying for that. That's not what I want. That's not what I came in here for. I don't care about your creative vision. I don't give a fuck about your creative vision. What are you talking about? Let's continue. Many wrestlers believe that a union could provide them with many of the benefits and services that they are not receiving from the company, including health care and travel expenses. The union would be the vehicle through which they could change other existing issues. Oh, I'm sure. One former wrestler described the absurdity of the WWE work schedule and how dangerous wrestlers' driving schedule is, he said he believes a union could help with this. To be at work from, let's say, noon until when the show is over, which could be midnight, that's a 12-hour day. Then you could also have to drive to the next town, which could be 300 miles away. Guess who else works a 12-hour day? Yours truly. I worked a 12-hour shift today, and I'm sitting here on this live stream right now, and we'll probably still be here in an hour or two. Oh, you have to, for starters, nobody said you couldn't go home and go back to a hotel room and go to sleep or whatever. And then also, wrestlers have been doing this for a long time. All right. Wrestlers have been doing this for a long time. They know how to make this shit work. They get in cars of 2s and 3s and they take turns driving. Simple. All right. They 2 to a car, 3 to a car, and they rotate. That's how they do it. They've been doing this since the fucking 1900s. Ever since they could barnstorm and go from town to town, they have figured out how to work long shows and still travel without dying. All right. They figured it out. I'm sorry you're a wrestler in 2022 and you ain't figured it out, but they have. Dusty figured it out a long time ago. Ted DiBiase, all these guys, they did all this shit you're talking about. They've been doing this shit for a long time. They figured it out. You should be able to figure it out too. It's nobody's fault you ain't got no friends. All right. But then again, just call an Uber driver. Have them drive you to the hotel. You know, then you get you a rental car. You drive to the goddamn next arena, which could be, 300 miles away or whatever. Others point out how frustrating they find booking all of their travel and healthcare expenses. Cooper, that'd be Tucker, says that while his contract was for $250,000 a year, he said, quote, was spending about $70,000 or so of that on hotels, rental cars, food, gear, boots, suits, and stuff for TV. You telling me, Mongo goddamn Slade, that Vince Kennedy McMahon, the emperor and warlord of all wrestling, was paying Tucker fucking Knight $250,000 a year. And he got the audacity to complain that he had to spend some of his own money on travel expenses and his own upkeep. I mean, he complained about everything except having to pay his own fucking rent. I gotta pay for my own rental car? Dude, you make $250,000 a year. Dude, you drew nothing. You drew nothing. This article, by the way, is about WWE exploiting the wrestlers. This shit sounds like Tucker exploited the WWE. That's what this sounds like. Cooper recognizes that he made a considerable amount of money during his time with the company, but he also recognizes the commitment he had to a large corporation headed by a billionaire. Well, who else could pay you, a useless fuck, $250,000 a year? I would have to be a billionaire to look at somebody like Tucker Knight, who draws nothing, makes nothing, does nothing, and gives you $250,000. Who else is going to pay you for that if you're not a billionaire? Should Vince only have $500,000 and then give you $250,000 of that? No, that doesn't make any sense. That makes no fucking sense. You're stupid. You're stupid. Stupid. It's more than ungrateful. It's downright dumb. Of course, Vince is going to be a billionaire. He's successful. Why do you think you have a job? If he wasn't successful, you wouldn't have a job. You wouldn't have $250,000 a year. And since he got fired from WWE, he ain't even making a quarter of that. Where is Tucker now? Oh, he's not getting exploited by WWE anymore. I guess all of a sudden, all of these other wrestling promotions that he wanted to work for, they're covering his travel expenses and paying for his boots and everything, huh? I ain't seen that motherfucker since the day he was fired. Where is he working at? He ain't popped up in AEW. He ain't popped up in GCW. He ain't popped up in AAW. He ain't popped up in FCW. He ain't popped up in ROW. He ain't popped up in OVW. He ain't popped up nowhere. Where is Tucker? What is he doing? Apparently, Tucker's a superstar in his own fucking mind that he should get paid more than $250,000. Is he a fucking what? What? What is he talking about? What is this guy? This guy's out of his mind, man. These people are out of their minds. Why would you do this? Why would you go on record and say this? He says, quote, I was doing well, right? Like I'm taking home $175,000 or $180,000 a year, but I also missed probably 250 out of the 365 days of my young daughter's life during that time span. Well, brother, that was a choice. That money doesn't come for you working 3 days a week. This is not going to happen because you want to work 10 days out of the month. Well, I want to make $250,000, but I also don't want to travel that much either. You just want everything then. What would you like? What more would you like? Would you like for Vince McMahon to bring you moon rocks? Would you like for him to swim to the bottom of the ocean and get you a giant pearl for your little girl? It's like, hey, you have to make a decision just like every father does. Either you stay at home, make nothing, but at least your daughter will see your face, or you go out there and you make that bread so she'll have something, to look forward to on Christmas, so she can have a house and lights and all the stuff that you probably didn't have growing up. Almost guarantee your father and your parents didn't make $250,000 a year. You have to make a decision. You made a decision. That's not Vince's fault. You were paid handsomely for that decision. Overpaid, if you ask for me. So by the time you even got to that point, he should have gotten fired. I never would have paid fucking Tucker $250,000 a year. You gotta be kidding me. And I bet Vince McMahon probably didn't even look at this guy 4 times the entire time he was on the roster. He probably couldn't pick this motherfucker not only out of a lineup, he could probably stand right in front of Vince and he'd probably say, who is this guy? You still work here? You ever worked here? Like, what are you doing? So of course that's pretty much it. From there we get the Screen Actors Guild and Radio Artists, SAG-AFTRA has also supported voice support for the wrestlers, but the wrestlers themselves are the ones who need to unionize. Yeah, I'm sure. WWE has remained a very closed organization with McMahon gone. However, an opportunity may now exist to change the industry. No doubt, many wrestlers enjoy a lifestyle that allows them to travel the world and earn substantial amounts of money, but they know that others are making far more than them, often at the expense of their own bodies and minds. Oh, well, we're talking about jealousy. Jealousy. All right. I'm making a substantial amount of money, but, that guy's making more money than me. It's like, okay, he's not just paying you. Stop being a fucking moron. If he makes, I don't know, $10 million or whatever, there's 300 wrestlers on the roster. Okay? He has to divvy that money up. Roman has to get his share. Brock has to get his share. All of these other guys have to get their share. Eventually, it comes down to you. This idea that you feel like you should be making more money is to say that not only is it ungrateful, but you have to, of course, it lacks perspective because what is your input into the show? If you're Roman Reigns, you're going to say, oh, look, I'm drawing all of this stuff. I'm drawing WrestleMania, drawing SummerSlam, drawing all this crap. I want more money. Then Vince has to buckle and say, you know what? You're right. I need to pay you more money. You're doing more. Boom, you get more. And if he don't want to, that's going to be where the problem lies. The problem is not going to be fixed by some jabroni who barely makes the show, who sits in catering all the day and thinking that, because he can complain to a magazine and all of a sudden he deserves more money. He didn't even make the argument that he deserves more money. He's not even making the solid enough argument about making more money. What's the argument? Like, there is no. I do the same work as Roman Reigns. but you don't have the same outcomes. Okay, both of you could take a power bomb, but the crowd reacts more when he takes one. When his name is on the thing, the marquee sells more tickets. You ain't been in the company in 3 years. Now, there's a lot of people that are, well, 2 years. There's a lot of people who patting old Tucker on the back, but it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny to me. It says Cooper tells me getting your body taken care of, getting your mind taken care of. Those are the kinds of protections that I think would be right for a company that's making the amount of money that it's been making for as long as it's been making it. What are you talking about? Look, this is the kind of relationship that is very strange because just take it out of the corporate environment. There's this belief that other people are responsible for your happiness. You know, there's this idea that other people are responsible for your, well-being, mental or physical well-being or whatever. That's absolute nonsense. You know, there's just no way for that to be. You cannot possibly expect other people to take care of you inside and out. That's stupid. Okay? That's stupid. You're asking for too much. I want you to take care of me, mind, body, and soul. It's like, what are you talking about? This is a job. This is not your soulmate. Your soulmate, you're asking too much out of a woman if you ask her to do that for you. You're asking too much out of a man or a puppy or whatever if they have to make you completely and totally happy 100% of the time. Nobody can live under that kind of stress. You can't even do it. Imagine if Vince McMahon was to do an article saying that, how stressed out he was having to take care of 200, 300 fucking wrestlers all day. Each one of them knocking on his door asking for 10 to 15 minutes of his time. If he gave 10 minutes to every wrestler who knocked on his door, he wouldn't have time to actually run the show. He wouldn't have time. 10 minutes divided by 100 fucking people, he'd be there all night answering the same fucking questions. It was dumb. It's dumb. This was a stupid article, boy, but I had fun with it. All right, so oh God, socialists. I found out too that they did another wrestling article on Jacobin. We'll probably save that one for next week. I'm gonna bring it up, but we'll save it for next week. All right, let's get into some of the questions. For the Q&A. I do have the list here, and I'm pretty sure there will be some popping up in the chat. Let's see. Prince Noctis. Yo, Mongo. Hope you're doing well. I am. How do you feel about ethnic studies classes being required to graduate in the state of California? Currently, I have an ethnic studies class, and it's horrible. Some gems I've heard from my Mexican teacher are legalizing weed is racist because black people can't afford to open businesses, and educating us was a plan by racists so we could have less children. I don't even understand any of that crap. Let's talk about the ethnic studies classes, though. What ends up happening is states like it's more bureaucracy, right? So what these universities have found specifically, and now they're just kicking it down to high schools and stuff like that, is that they found that they can create their own standards. So in universities now, you have to take classes that you don't even need in order to graduate from a different degree. So the only reason college is 4 years is because you have to take at least a year or two of prerequisites. You have to take math classes that you probably will never need and never use. You have to take English classes you will never need and never use. I had to take fucking geology. I studied rocks for 4 or 5 months because I had to take a hard science course. I had to study chemistry. My fucking major was criminal justice. And people was like, well, what if you go off to be a lawyer? And in that case, there's blood on a stack of rocks. Wouldn't you think that? I'm like, come on, I'm not Matlock, motherfucker. I'm not Columbo. I'm not going to sit here and be like, this igneous rock is covered in blood and the DNA on the rock. Come on, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But these classes, they exist to propagandize and brainwash people. That's the reason why these ethnic study classes exist. All right. I studied Dwayne Johnson when I was a kid. I didn't study Dwayne Johnson in geology class. I studied igneous rocks. My professor for geology, he actually had he would bring rocks into the classroom, and I'm just like, bruh, it's a fucking rock, you know, like it's a stone or whatever. I don't know, man. I can't tell you what this thing is made of. I don't care, you know. And he knew nobody cared, so all of his tests were open book, and you know, I got a B because I just didn't care. Open book tests, I still fucking failed some of them. I didn't care, you know. And it was like a twice a week class too. It was awful. But these ethnic studies courses, they exist because they're part of that propagandizing. You know, they realize that people will avoid these classes. They won't take them if they're not mandatory. So what they'll say is you have to take this class in order to graduate from college or high school. So you can't avoid it. Everybody has to go through the brainwashing. Whether it sticks or not is a personal choice, but you actually have to take it. And for some people, they're going to be so soft brained that it's going to actually work on them. But for other people, like Prince Noctis here, he seems to see, you know, understand where the game is going. You know, I mean, the idea that you're going to be educated so you'll have fewer children. Well, these same people are talking about Planned Parenthood all the time. Like, what do you? Oh boy, let's not go down that road. All right. His second question, also related to the first question, is it worth countering the points my teacher makes in class? I usually provide evidence when I do this in class, but it usually results in him stammering and getting really upset. He called the wage gap a de facto example of sexism, despite it being debunked plenty of times and me providing evidence. He also tried to say the college system is racist because more whites have more degrees than black people, while ignoring within the same PowerPoint slide it shows that even Asians outpace white people, and it couldn't address why that was the case when I asked him, what should I do about being forced to listen to this dribble? Now, some people will tell you to just get the A and get out of there because it's going to be easy. Some people will tell you to argue with them. But I can tell you straight up, I've sat in some of these classes. Pick your battles. You know, it's best. I've spent, man, I never shot dice before in my life. Like, but I rolled my eyes so much, you think I was shooting dice in the back of the room. I just be like, oh my God. Some of those police courses that I had to take, and you get the activist types jumping up and down about this case or that case. Even the professor was an activist and he was a former police officer. He would jump up and down and they would just go on and on and on and on and on about the rights of the criminals and all this kind of shit. You just kind of like, man, this guy was like, he was doing a B&E, you know? Somebody beat his ass. Okay, well, too bad. He shouldn't have been doing a B&E. But no, we have to talk about this and this and this. I was like, oh God. Some professors are good with pushback because they're secure in who they are and they're comfortable. But when you get an insecure professor, they will fuck you. Because I remember when I first started becoming a little bit more libertarian, as it was in grad school, and I actually started to do some pushback. You know, I would do extra reading outside of the readings that were provided to me, and I would use that in papers. And sometimes they would say, "Good point." Other times they would say, "This is not a credible source." They would say, you know, I remember on the big final exam you have to do to get your MPA. I wrote a, It was it was about how to save some kind of park in California or whatever, and I wanted to write, I don't think this is the government's job anyway. Like, I legit wanted to put that in there. I remember I did put it in my draft because I had to send her a draft before I actually went and wrote it. And it was like big block letters. And she said, I don't think the citizens of the city of Santa Maria or whatever would like this response. I'm like, it ain't about what they want, you know, like it's that's not about what they want. You want to fix this problem. I'm saying, okay, privatize it. Well, I don't think the citizens would appreciate that. Like I don't think the citizen cares. I'm a citizen of the city of Detroit. I don't really give a shit if you privatize a park. Now, I know Belle Isle for a long time was free. You could go to Belle Isle and do whatever you want. And then they started putting up tolls. And then people started complaining about the tolls. And I say, well, look at how you treated Belle Isle when it was free. When it was free, it was niggas everywhere. I mean, six foes bouncing up and down, fucking gangster rap all over the place, goddamn Coke 45 bottles laying all over the place. And then they put the tolls up. It's mostly families. You know, they just don't want to. They just don't want to go there with that. They just don't want to be like, you could change the demographic. You can actually help the park. The park can generate its own income if you put up a toll booth. Well, we want it to be free. I'm like, okay, well, just tell me the fucking answer. Just tell me what you want me to write. If you don't want me to think for myself, just tell me what you want me to write. I'll write it, whatever, you know. And sometimes that's how those classes get. Just go into these classrooms, listen. If you don't agree, just spit back at them exactly what they want to hear, and don't even think about it. It'd be the easiest A you ever got. Just spit it back at them. You don't gotta believe it. Just tell them what they want to hear. How do we fix this problem? However you said we should fix it, and then let that be that. Whatever the textbook says, and the textbook is probably gonna be written by some Marxist professor who don't know shit, as we just went through with the Jacobin article, and just this is what such and such says, and leave it at that. Don't think too much about it though, because you can't drop the class, and then that's a big problem. Is that people don't want to do this stuff, but you can't drop it because if you drop the course, you have to take it over again. You have to take some variation of it again. He has a third question. You've talked about the fact that you write. Why haven't you made videos on them or tried to get them published or put them online? I would love to see them. Because I'm constantly working on the projects that I have. This the first book I ever wrote that I ever completed. Um, I'm going back and making revisions. Sometimes there's a thing like I think that it's too long. It's like 106,000 words. It's a little long, and I wanted to get it down to like 80 or 90,000, but it's hard to do. So I haven't published that one, but there are other ones that I probably could publish that that I need to. I need to legitimately get on that and start publishing some stuff. So the more people remind me to do it, I will actually do it. I'm gonna need somebody like an artist or something like that to do book covers. His fourth question: have you ever wanted to work in the wrestling business, not as a wrestler, but as someone handling talent relations, storylines, etc.? If so, have you tried to get into the business in some way? I'm only asking because you usually have some of the best ideas when it comes to wrestling, comics, etc. And I would love to see how those things will actually play out. I actually had zero avenues into that sort of thing. Um, when I was a kid, because I fell out of wrestling when I was about 17 or 18, I really didn't pursue it. Me coming back into wrestling was mostly just I'm into storytelling and characters and stuff like that. But I never really tried to actually make anything of it, you know, mainly because I didn't think people was listening. It's like I don't know how do you get into a creative situation here, and then around the same time too, not an excuse, but an understanding that sometimes you have to know people. Like WWE is becoming a place where you have to have previous TV experience, and you can't get TV experience without um, without going through the gatekeepers. And then comic books is the same way, where you have to have friends in the right places in order to get these jobs, and I don't have friends in the right places. Um, DeAndre Dukes has 7 questions. Okay, what is the chat talking about? What the hell happened to Bobby Fish since he left WWE? He got fat in the stomach. Well, Eating too much algae, I guess. How much fish could Bobby Fish fry? Bobby Fish could fry fish. All right, DeAndre Dukes has 7 questions. Let's see. How are you liking Naruto Shippuden so far? Um, I like Naruto Shippuden. Um, it's not as epic as everybody told me it was, but it's a lot more dramatic and a lot more emotional. For those of you who want an update, I just passed the episode where Naruto learned about Jiraiya and that Jiraiya has been killed in battle. Um, so he's going through that. So I saw the epic battle between Itachi and Sasuke, which a lot of people beat me over the head with, like, you're gonna love that fight. It's so good. I'll talk more about that on the stream. What happened to Tony Storm's ass? Vince McMahon told her to go lose weight. That's what happened. Vince and Kevin Dunn told her to go lose weight, so she did. No, I'm not at the war arc yet. I'm literally at the part where they're trying to figure out Jiraiya's code. Like, they're trying to figure out what is it he put on the Toad's back. So Sasuke's is now wants to destroy the Hidden Leaf Village, but it feels like it's some bullshit to me. Like, but Itachi is dead, Jiraiya is dead. You know, the Jiraiya one actually hurt. That one I was very emotional for that. Lorenzo Granger, hello, bro. What is your thoughts on Triple H want to bring back Chelsea Green? I'm not interested, dog. I've been saying for a while now that they're doing too much when it comes to these comebacks. They're signing too many people. Where are you going to put all of these people? What are you going to do with Chelsea Green? Is Chelsea Green good enough that, look, I can give you some credit. Chelsea Green didn't get much of a chance, right? She had 2 matches on SmackDown or something like that, and then she got the boot. That's not enough time to tell whether anybody's any good or not. It's not fair. But I've seen Chelsea Green in other places. I can tell you you're not missing out on anything. Like, you want to bring back somebody that we feel like, okay, we missing out on something special here. That's good. Cross, all right. EO, okay. Strowman, all right. But the Garganos, I don't see why should we bring them back? It was dumb. It was dumb. No. Chelsea Green, if anything, they're going to bring back Chelsea Green as a way of probably trying to bring back Zack Ryder. And he's been trolling on Twitter about coming back. I don't think he wants to come back either. I think he wants to come back, I should say. But would the company see him the way he wants to be seen is going to be the question. That's going to be the question. But I don't like the Chelsea Green stuff. To answer the 100th time about Eva Marie, I was a fan of Eva Marie when it comes to her trolling. The most recent Eva Marie, I didn't need it. I felt like it was a bad usage of her. Triple H does not know how to use women's wrestlers in that way, because Eva Marie was a diva in a time. Her being a diva character in the realm of all of the athletic female wrestlers, that could work. But we also need to bring in some glamorous not ring card girls, but valets. Microphone stands. Like, some of those women with shimmering dresses and all that kind of stuff, where they look like Miss Elizabeth, but they're doing in-ring introductions and all that kind of shit. That could be great. That could be great. But just bringing all these broads back to wrestle, like, no. What do we need all these women for? For what? The problem, Mongo, you have other girls who can do the diva gimmick much better. Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of those, and there's some. And the worst thing about all of these, bringing in Chelsea Green and Eva Marie and bringing back Melina and all that shit, the worst thing about that is there's women in NXT, bro. There were so many girls who are younger and prettier and so much better for these roles. And we're talking about giving it to Chelsea Green. Look, there's nothing wrong with Chelsea Green, okay, as far as how she looks, you know. But there's younger, prettier girls who did not get the run yet, who haven't been fired from WWE, that haven't been bouncing around the independents all over the place. There's just better people to do it, you know. There's just better people to do it. But nose man gonna nose. Yeah, Ricochet girlfriend is super hot. She's the ring announcer too. She's fabulous. Oh boy, that girl hot. All right, back to DeAndre Duke's question. With all these recent drama in AEW, do you see them getting worse going into 2023? I think they're going to get a little bit more secretive in 2023, but I think it depends on how all of this stuff shakes out this year. You know, I think Tony Khan he's trying his best to keep these things under wraps, but it keeps getting out because these guys have so much freedom that they can argue and fight on Twitter and stuff like that. I think he's going to learn how to handle these things better. So I don't think they're going to get worse. But what I do think is going to end up happening is more people are going to end up leaving, and we're going to hear in shooter interviews about what was going on there, and that's probably what's going to end up happening next year. I think Kairi Sane should come back, but I think she's pretty happy in Japan, and she left not because Vince didn't utilize her appropriately, or she didn't get fired either. She retired, and then she moved to Japan because she was getting married. So that's not really going to change. Like, you know, she's still, you know, married and living life in Japan. I don't think she might want to come back for a shot here and there, but I don't think she's coming back full time. His third question: who do you want to see win the men's and women's Royal Rumble next year? Oh, I think I've talked about this 100 times. Cody Rhodes, Rhea Ripley. Those are our top two. If for any reason Rhea Ripley is injured, Mandy Rose, I guess. I don't know. But Rhea Ripley's my number one. I want that, you know. 4. Any news really update about the Warner Discovery merger? Yeah, they're bleeding money. They're losing a lot of money. I just saw that the stock is down like $15 or something like that. It's insane the amount of money that they're losing. You know, they said the company not for sale. They said it's not for sale, but somebody gonna come in and try to buy that motherfucker, dog. And it's gonna be a problem. All right. The stock is like $11. I'm not gonna, you know, jump in. Press Noctis, we're really just getting started with the Q&A. We're really just getting started, you know. So you ain't missed too much. But yeah, I think that they're doing something with Rhea and her concussions, but she's starting to get a little bit more physical now. So maybe something is going on. Oh, they absolutely gutted Cartoon Network. I want to talk about that on Sunday though. I'm talking about the killing of Cartoon Network and what used to be so great about it. We're going to talk about more about that one on our pop culture stream because Cartoon Network was an important part of my childhood, and I hate to see it get killed, but that's what's happening. All right. His fifth question: what wrestling podcast from a WWE Hall of Famer do you enjoy listening to? I used to listen to JR. Like I have runs with podcasts, and then I jump off. Like I really loved Cheap Heat for a while, which was Rosenberg, Masked Man. I used to love that podcast, and I jumped off of it just kind of randomly, just gave up on it. I used to love Ring Rust Radio. You know, I used to love that podcast. I kind of just fell off of it. K100 is very good. I love listening to the clips more than anything on K100. Like I don't like listening to the whole long form thing because they get into stuff I don't care about. But the clips on YouTube, I will listen to K100 all day. And even though Conan is not a Hall of Famer, he should be. I listen to clips of Bruce Pritchard's podcast still. I don't listen to him as much as I used to, but I listen to it still. Like I don't listen to a whole podcast. I can't make it through a whole one. Like I feel like they, you know, a lot of the more interesting topics, either they get talked about in documentaries or they've already discussed them on their podcast. I just listen to the clips now. I just go through I don't like Husey though. Husey sucks. And the clickbait is a problem with me when it comes to Husey. I'm not a fan of that. The Kevin Nash podcast is actually fun. When it's a clip that I actually want to hear, it's very funny. You know, he's got a great, um, he got an excellent sense of humor. Same thing with Cornette, absolutely. Um, what are your thoughts on the Super Mario Brothers trailer? I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm not tripping on Mario's voice. I know a lot of people are, but I'm not. I'm not tripping on Mario's voice. I knew what they're trying to do. Um, I just know what they're trying to do, which is they're trying to make it more mainstream. And trying to make it more mainstream, they just decided to go with somebody who was an A+ actor. At least they thought so. So they bumped the guy who usually is Mario. And I think they also want to de-Italianize Mario and make him less of a quote unquote stereotype. But it's not. It's whatever. Um, Alto Johnson, why do you think Disco Inferno never went to WWE? I don't think they ever saw any value in him. You know, Disco Inferno was just one of those guys who was just on the roster. And I know because I think he talked about it, and I think other people have talked about it, that Disco actually tried to get into WWE. That he actually sent like Bruce Pritchard letters and stuff like that, but they just never got her. Of all the undercard WCW guys that they never brought in, Disco Inferno being the one guy is very interesting to me because they brought in all of the undercard guys like Ernest the Cat Miller, Bill DeMott, a bunch of other guys. They brought them in, but they never brought in Disco. You know, and it was like, why not bring in Disco? You know, like why not bring in Disco? That was weird. You know, that's a weird situation. That would be an interesting question to ask Disco. Hello Afro Ninja asked me a question. With AEW being a mess, do you think ROH would be successful under Tony Khan? What can he do to make it successful? Well, he could get ROH major wrestling television um, on a maybe not TBS or TNT. He might have to try WGN. He might have to try Amazon or Apple or some other type of streaming service. He's going to have to try something else. That's the only way Ring of Honor is going to be successful under Tony Khan. Is he going to have to try something else? But I think the worst thing for him to do is try to run two wrestling promotions because he can barely run one. And I think him trying to run two um, is going to be a problem. Uh, Mercedes Martinez says she has defended her title. Where? I haven't even seen Mercedes Martinez since she won it. So, like, she ain't been on this show. I ain't seen her since. So I don't know what to tell you. Ninja has two questions. One, what is your favorite and least favorite feud for The Undertaker at WrestleMania? My favorite feud, obviously Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 25-26. My least favorite, that when he was supposed to help get over Nathan Jones, and it's going to be a tag team match. It's going to be him and Nathan Jones versus Big Show and Albert or something like that. Man, that sucks. That smacked up. We have nothing to do with The Undertaker. And it turned into a goddamn handicap match. Oh, God, that was so offensive. That was offensive. That sucked. That was stupid. No, the Giant Gonzalez wasn't the worst, though. Because at least it was a plan. The match sucked. But at least it was a plan that was started out before. It was give Undertaker a freak show fight. You know, can he defeat this giant guy? You know, and as a kid, I was interested in that. You know, I was like, oh, I never thought that he could beat this big, big, huge dude. Like, whoa, let's see how this turns out. But the Albert and Big Show thing, it's like, bro, this is going to be a tag team match. He was going to be in a tag team match. The Giant Gonzalez was at least a freak show spectacle. At least it was that. That tag team match thing was stupid. I hated that fucking shit. That shit made me so mad. Eveline, how you doing? All right. Two. Who would you choose to beat Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania? Um, I I don't see anything. I'm a person that I didn't see anything wrong with it being Brock. Undertaker and Brock had a relationship. Brock, it was all about Brock basically committing to WWE in the long term, because once you do that, you can't undo it. Randy Orton would have been a good choice, I think, but it would have had to do a different time. It couldn't be at WrestleMania 21. It would have had to be at WrestleMania 30 or something like that. When Randy is super over, he's not going anywhere. He's a lifer, that kind of thing. Like for me, that's kind of when they decided to take Brock to the next level, because it's like, all right, he's our guy again. But I didn't see anything wrong with it being Brock. But I think it could have been Randy Orton too. Randy Orton was a good choice for having to beat Undertaker at WrestleMania. But at the same time, though, it is Randy Orton, so I don't know. Bray Wyatt. Well, I don't know if Bray Wyatt need. For starters, I don't think Bray Wyatt needed it. Um, Second, I think people would have rejected it if it was anybody who was too young, and Bray would have been under the age of. He'd have been what, a little over 30 at the time, or maybe a little under 30. I don't think people would have really appreciated it if it was Wyatt. I think people appreciated it because it was Brock, because Brock and Undertaker had such a history. Brock had been the guy back in '02 and '03 and '04 and all that kind of stuff. They understood the UFC background of it. There was just a lot more there with Brock than it was with anybody else. It was more believable when it comes to Brock than it would have been for anybody else. Um, it would have been something for Bray Wyatt to hold his hat on for sure, but it's still. Eh, I don't think he should even wrestle Undertaker, if we're being honest. You know, we could have avoided it. You know, maybe he should have had him beat Kane or something. Mr. VXG, what is your favorite movie soundtrack? Probably He Got Game, which was done completely by Public Enemy. I think it came out in like 1995. Public Enemy there was a movie, Spike Lee movie called He Got Game, and it was a really good soundtrack. It was really solid. Another, I'm not really much of a movie soundtrack guy, because I really kind of avoid compilations. I really don't like compilations, if we're being honest. Um, I don't know what it is. I never was a big fan of the mixtape compilation. I was never a fan of that. Different artists on different songs. That was just never my thing. So it really wasn't my thing when it comes to. Now there's great tracks on soundtracks, but I don't know. Rush Hour had a good soundtrack. I never heard it. Like that's the thing. Like I've never was very excited to go hear a soundtrack for a movie. So I really don't have one. Mr. VXG asks, what is your favorite wrestling title belt? The WWF Intercontinental Championship. When I was a kid, those were very exciting words. And it is for the Intercontinental Championship. Oh yeah, Batman was great. Yeah, the Batman soundtrack by Prince was excellent. That was very good. That was very good. That was awesome. Above the Rim had a great song as on the soundtrack. You know, had a great song. That Above the Rim song was pretty good. Top Dog, he's got 5 questions. 1, do you think John Cena was the last pop culture megastar wrestling ever had? I wouldn't say this because it's not over. It's not like the business is dead or anything. The business is down. They're not doing as good as they could, but the business ain't dead. There's still an opportunity for somebody else to come along and become a big star. But if we're talking right now, yes, eventually. But you also got people in Hollywood asking The Rock if they recognize his tribal, if he acknowledges his tribal chief and all that kind of stuff. So maybe Roman might have an opportunity to cross over, because they've asked him like 3 times on the Black Adam PR stuff about Roman Reigns, which is great shit because it's something that's in people's minds. It's something that people are thinking about. So Gotta give him some credit for that. But I don't know. I think Cena was different level because WWE's the machine was 100% behind Cena. Cena had incredible charisma. He's a team player. That the whole thing with him in China was just part of him being a team player, team captain. You take the lumps, you know. You're the when you're Captain America, you wear the shield. You carry the shield. You wear the flag, and then people target you. And Cena was the guy. He went out there. He tried to make everything right, and he pissed off a bunch of people. And that's just kind of how it is. Yes, Black Adam will be out next week in theaters. I I'm actually struggling about whether I should go see it or not. I'm actually my brother wants to go see it. Um, we'll see. We'll see if I go see it or not. But I think my brothers are going to go see it. Let's see. His second question: do you think Gen Z and millennials get unfair hate sometimes? And what's your thoughts on baby boomers? Baby boomers ruin the planet. I mean, that's just a fact. I think Gen Z and millennials, I don't. They mostly hate themselves. They have this sort of nihilistic worldview where they think they 100% believe in like climate change and they're destroying the planet and they're vegans and you're hurting harmless animals by eating meats and all this other kind of corny shit that they've created in their own minds. All this anti-human stuff. A lot of this stuff is Gen Z and millennial shit. We can't cut down any trees, so we can't have paper. We can't eat meat. We can't do this. We can't do that. We have to stop doing everything. It's like, well, fuck. We might as well go live in rabbit warrens at some point because we can't touch anything. Everything is precious except human beings. The only thing that they agree with is aborting other people. You can't cut down a tree. You can't kill a pig. You can't. You want to do everything sustainably. Just it's all anti-human dumb shit, but it's coming from a good place. But it's just sad because we know that it would definitely have to tank our way of life in order to fix that thing. But we shouldn't stop trying to fix every goddamn thing. All right, his third question: top 10 favorite ruthless aggression era matches. Oh, I would have had to write this one down. So I'm not going to write. I'm not going to give you a 10. I'm just going to. Matter of fact, I'm just going to shout some out, and if I get to 10, fine. Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle from SummerSlam 2002. I love Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio. That was excellent. Kurt Angle versus Eddie Guerrero WrestleMania 20. I love that match. The match is phenomenal. I love. Uh, oof, oof. Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho, WrestleMania 19. I love that match. Match was tremendous. What a great match. I love their feud too, especially their no holds barred match that they had, um, which was also quite excellent. That was still technically Ruthless Aggression, wasn't it? That was in 2008. It was like at the tail end of Ruthless Aggression. Um, I was a big fan of. So how many is that? 4, 5. Um, Oh yeah, Angle and Shawn, WrestleMania 21. That match was fantastic. That was one of the matches that brought me back into the business. Well, Undertaker versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 21 too. Those are other ones that are great matches from that era. Um, oh God, there's definitely more. The Eddie Guerrero Rey Mysterio match, also from WrestleMania 21. Fantastic. WrestleMania 21 is one of my favorite events. Undertaker and Batista, WrestleMania 23. Uh, there was a triple threat match. Carlito, Sean Morrison, he was wrestling as Johnny Nitro, and Shelton Benjamin for the Intercontinental Championship. I love that match too. I think I forget what event it was at. I want to say Backlash or something like that. Vengeance or something. It was a very good match that they had at the time. Is for the Intercontinental title. Jeff Hardy versus Johnny Nitro. I believe it was some kind of was it a cage match or a ladder match or something they had between the two of them. That the Eminem Hardy Boys feud was fun. They blowing it off on ECW, which was dumb, but I love that feud. Rob Van Dam versus John Cena, One Night Stand 2, excellent match. Um, uh, the John Cena Shawn Michaels match on Raw, I've only watched that match one time. I legit have only watched it once. So I can't say it's one of my favorites if I only sat through it once. It's just too long, you know. It was too long. The Orton Kurt Angle matches right before Angle left were very good too. That was the ECW match they had. It wasn't their better one. The better match that they had is the one that Orton won. I think it was Vengeance 2006 or Vengeance 2007. It was one of the two. But that was very good. Oh yeah, Undertaker versus Kurt Angle, No Way Out. Excellent, fantastic match. One of my favorite matches ever. Definitely one of my favorite Undertaker matches ever. The crazy thing is, Kurt Angle said that match was supposed to happen at WrestleMania, and he was going to win and break the streak. And you know what? That would have been great too. It would have been excellent if it had been Undertaker versus Kurt Angle, and Kurt Angle would have broke the streak. But I definitely think they would have turned and gave Undertaker the belt if they did it at WrestleMania. That's why they bumped it to No Way Out. It's because they wanted to sell that pay per view for starters, but they also wanted Kurt Angle to go over. But then Undertaker got stuck wrestling Mark Henry. That's Jesus Christ. I know we love Mark Henry because of the salmon suit incident, but I am never going to forget, that casket match with him and Undertaker. Like, boy, that was sad. That was a sad piece of business right there, dog. Do I have an opinion on Dave's 5-star rating system? Well, it's not based on anything. There's no rubric. Like, if there was a rubric that was objective that I could look at and say, all right, even if it's between two people that I don't like, I can see why he would give it 5 stars. It's just he likes these guys or these guys get 5 stars. Like, no, that's bullshit. Let's go back to Top Dog. He got a fourth question. Favorite version of The Undertaker? Purple Gloves. Purple Gloves Undertaker. I love that. That was great. Thoughts on Bret versus Austin at WrestleMania 17 and 1997 as a whole for wrestling? I'm guessing you meant WrestleMania 13. Well, we all know it's a classic. 1997 is when you started seeing WWF make the turn. That's when things started to change. In mid 1996, you saw they were still doing Shawn as the top baby face, super baby face at that. And they were doing this angle with him and Bulldog where, Diana is saying that he's trying to have sex with her and he's flirting with her. It led to Bulldog drowning him in the ocean or something like that. It was great. But 97, Shawn is doing something completely different. The tone of the show is completely different. It's grittier. It's a little bit darker, if we're being honest. Undertaker is the champion for some fucking reason at this point. I know he won the belt at WrestleMania, but we don't even know why he won the belt at WrestleMania. So he wasn't even supposed to be the champion at this time. But you can start seeing that other people are changing. It's a changing of the guard that's coming. So 97, you could start seeing the Attitude Era was coming. Because in August, Bret and Shawn were heels, both of them. And okay, we're off to the races at that point. Because they was doing the whole thing where they were teasing Bret in 96. They were teasing Bret turning heel. They slow burned the shit out of Bret's heel turn. I mean, they slow burned the hell out of it. Bret was supposed to turn heel in 96 anyway, because he was going to turn heel on Shawn, and then he was going to wrestle at WrestleMania. But then they slow burned it even more, and it ended up working with Austin. He ended up still turning heel. But they took their time with that Bret heel turn, and that was excellent stuff. Travis Tippins, have I ever watched Fist of the North Star? Here's the thing. I probably have seen the anime, but I don't remember it. I did find a site where I could pirate some of the OVAs. I'm going to definitely watch those. But I'm reading the manga right now, and I have the hardcover books that I think Dark Horse are printing up. And I just finished book 6, so we're getting to Mamiya and Yuta, where We finding out she's got that brand on her shoulder and everything, and Ray's he's got 3 days to live or some shit like that. It's very interesting. And Fist of the North Star is quite possibly one of the most masculine manga ever created. I'm talking super masculine. Like, I'm talking very little emotion out of some of these male characters. It's one of the most masculine pieces of fiction I've ever read. All right, Top Dog, got one more question. Who's bigger in pop culture overall, Stone Cold or Hulk Hogan? Do you think fans stopped watching wrestling because of the Attitude Era? I think the Attitude Era was just a fad, and like all other fads, it came and went. Just like Teletubbies and Tickle Me Elmo and everything else, it came and went. I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe was a fad. Everybody was super excited for it for a short amount of time. They got the big crescendo and Endgame, and now people don't really care anymore. It was the same thing with the Attitude Era. They got what they wanted. They got Rock, Austin, WrestleMania 19. That was the big finish. People were just kind of like, okay, we've toppled. Austin's career is over. Rock's career is over. Everybody who jumped onto the train in 95, 96 or 97 because of The Rock and Austin, they jumped off at WrestleMania 19. So, it was, as Darren Gordon Hill says, a product of its time. It was what it was. I don't think people stopped watching wrestling because of the Attitude Era. Even though I'm pretty sure some people did. We talked about this before. They turned some people off. But I think that ultimately that the style, the attitude, the personality came and went, and the company had to adapt. And unfortunately, they doubled down, which probably wasn't a great idea. Now, if you're asking me who's bigger in pop culture, Hulk Hogan or Stone Cold Steve Austin, I think Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan is the immortal. He's the immortal Hulk Hogan. Like the racism stuff hurts, but he's still, I think, more beloved than hated. Steve Austin, I think he just didn't do enough. Like he pretty much retired and fell off the face of the earth. Hogan had that that long stretch of time where either you're a Hulkamaniac from the 80s, or you're a Hulkamaniac from the early 90s, or you're a Hulkamaniac from the days of him being in the NWO, or you're a Hulkamaniac from his early 2000s run, or you're a Hulkamaniac from his TNA days. It's just so much there for you to get into Hulk Hogan. It's just there's just so much there, you know. So I definitely think Hogan's probably, and I think if you walk up to people, I think Steve Austin for a certain generation, but I think Hulk Hogan overall is more of a pop culture thing. Alto Johnson, what's your thoughts about the Cartoon Network and Warner Brothers animation merger, RIP Cartoon Network, 1992-2002? What is the legacy? Will Triple H bring back the Power Driver on TV? I don't think the Power Driver is ever coming back. I think that like blood and chair shots to the head and stuff like that, it's never coming back. It's just too dangerous, and they're not going to want to pay hospital bills for people getting their necks broken and all that kind of shit. So they're not going to do Power Drivers. But what's the legacy of Cartoon Network? Well, Cartoon Network, I think the legacy of it and this is going to piss a lot of people off, but it introduced a lot of people to anime. The Toonami block, the Adult Swim block. A lot of people in the United States got into anime because of Cartoon Network, because they took a chance and they invested in that Japanese block. And another legacy of Cartoon Network is going to be in some of the more diverse programming that it had, taking chances on things like Courage the Cowardly Dog, shows like Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack. Like when Cartoon Network was mostly reruns of Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes, like that was fun. I didn't hate that. But when they started making their own individualized programming, it was hit and miss. Let's put it like that. And then it got more towards miss near the end, because then they started making their own shit and nobody cared. It's like, we get it. Things got expensive. Licensing these anime got expensive. But then they started doing shows that nobody cared about, and it became reruns of Teen Titans all day. Like it was so sad. It was so sad what happened to Cartoon Network. But I think its enduring legacy is it kept alive classic American animation, the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, the old Warner Brothers cartoons. Um, it kept that stuff alive for a new generation of kids, which would basically be me. Because a lot of this stuff, a lot of the Looney Tunes cartoons and stuff like that I was watching as a kid, that shit came out in the 60s. Some of that shit may even come out in the 50s. You know, so it kept it alive for a new generation like me, but it also bridged the gap by giving us something new in Japanese anime and, introducing us to some newer style art, some newer style comedy when they started doing, but like I said, they started doing live action stuff and a bunch of other shit. And it's one of those things where people just kind of over over time they just got sick of fucking Law and Order. Because that's basically what it turned into. Was like Teen Titans was the Law and Order of of Cartoon Network. It was just always on. All right, this guy has an absolute nightmare name. Taibaso Impisane. Okay. Are you going to be reviewing the new MLW season? And who are your top 5 wrestlers in MLW? I probably will not be doing MLW reviews because it's going to be on Pro Wrestling TV, and I have zero interest in watching that. I might. I'm going to still be watching it if I can actually sit. I think Pro Wrestling TV is free, so it have my ability to watch it. But it's but I don't know. Doing reviews, probably not. I may talk about it here and there though. It depends on what they do. But my top 5 favorite wrestlers: Alexander Hammerstone, Jacob Fatu. I like the Von Erichs. I like those guys. Um, I like Richard Holiday, and I don't think I have a fifth. I don't think I have a fifth. TN Pyro, absolutely not. I did not see Adventure Time or Regular Show. I also didn't watch Steven Universe. But that's the kind of stuff that I started to reject Cartoon Network probably before that, but we were still watching, introduced to different anime through Cartoon Network. I mean, you know, Attack on Titan was just like, you know, that was something I needed to see every week on Cartoon Network. I needed my Attack on Titan. I was waiting on that. I was waiting on that. I was waiting patiently on my Attack on Titan. But it just, for some reason, they started going more towards the Stevens Universe kind of shit and the Teen Titans Go and all that kind of stuff. And it alienated a lot of people, you know? So it's a shameful thing, to be quite honest. Richard Holiday is definitely underrated. He's very good. I think if he was not friends with MJF, I think more people would recognize how good he is. And I actually think he fits WWE a lot better. His lawyer / his father, which I love. But he's probably gonna be in MLW for a while because they be signing them goddamn 360 deals like it's a Interscope Records or some shit. I don't understand why you would sign an MLW contract, but it is. Um, Ali Hankerson asked the question. This is a worldwide debate, but who do you think is objectively greater, Marvel or DC? In terms of rogues gallery, characters, iconic events, merchandise sales, video games, movies, TV shows, animated TV shows, and overall mainstream recognition? This is a good question. The answer is Batman. So there's only 2 answers: Batman, Spider-Man. Batman is number 1. Spider-Man is usually in the top 3. Sometimes Superman is up there too. But Batman sells more merchandise than anybody. He still sells more comic. Well, he don't sell more comic books anymore. I think Spider-Man has surpassed him in comic books. But movies, Batman. Rogues Gallery, Batman. Iconic events, see, the only person that can compete with Batman on iconic events is Spider-Man. Uh, but for both of them, they have retconned so much of the stuff was that was great. Like when you had Jason get beat to death with the crowbar and by the Joker, they undid that by making him Red Hood. You know, Spider-Man, you had the death of Gwen Stacy, which was the first real superhero failure in comics. And then now Gwen Stacy has her own comic book, and it's alternate universe. That's not the point. You know, Gwen Stacy is not dead anymore. She might be dead, quote unquote, in that universe, but there's other Gwen Stacys that exist. So the pain of Gwen Stacy, existing is fucked. Batman was never allowed to get married. Spider-Man did get married, so he did have that. But then with that comes one more day, which is Spider-Man trading his marriage to the devil. Oh God. Batman was allowed to have a kid, which is a positive thing because he actually got to mature. Spider-Man was never allowed to have kids in canon. So that's a weird one, but they both have some really great iconic events. They both have some really great villains, but Batman's villains are a lot more lethal, and Batman seems to be a lot more of a dynamic character. Now, I think overall, the big three of DC are easily recognizable: Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. After that, it's a people don't have any idea. But when they think of Marvel, they have more characters to think of. Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, the Incredible Hulk, the X-Men. So you got Wolverine and Storm and Black Panther. They just have more characters that people care about in Marvel. And some of those characters are fairly new into the mainstream, because Iron Man just, through Robert Downey Jr. becomes a big franchise. Captain America becomes a big franchise because of the movies. All of those characters basically become big franchises because of the movies. Even though they might have, like Iron Man had a cartoon in the 90s, but it sucked. When they did the Marvel anime, they had a Iron Man anime. So it's not like they just decided to push Iron Man because of the movies. No, they've been doing stuff with Iron Man, but it's never really caught on. But the X-Men was the number one selling comic book throughout the 80s and 90s. Like, it was up there with Batman. So everybody knows who the X-Men are, and there's 10 of them. There's 15, 20 of them. Wolverine being tops among them. So I think overall, people will probably know more Marvel characters than DC characters. But I think the DC characters that they know are far more well known. I think more people know about Batman and Superman than know anything about the X-Men. And that's just based off of, you can look at the logo of of Superman, and it's universal. I think you could probably do the same thing with the X-Men, but the X-Men is a team. Individually, would people know Cyclops? Nah. Would people know who Rogue is? They know who the X-Men is, but they didn't know who Storm is. But everybody knows who Superman is. You have to be barefoot, butt naked in the middle of the jungle, eating coconuts to not know who Superman is. He's been on everything, everywhere. And Spider-Man is another one where you have to be barefoot in the jungle to not know who Spider-Man is. Z Kid says, you hype Marvel animated show and movie. Marvel will make animated on show, but X-Men 97, what if season 2 and Marvel Zombie, would you watch? 2023, 2024. I don't like Marvel animation shows. They suck. The animation is stilted. They don't look very good. I can't believe animation is getting worse. It's not just Marvel and DC. It's just animation in the industry is getting worse. People are cheaping out on the animation. This is why manga and anime are kicking their asses. And I think I'm going to go to one of my favorite punching bags here. Is the unionization of the animation industry. It's jacked up the cost of animation. You don't have that shit in Korea or in China or in Japan or whatever. where those dudes bust their asses, just to get the show on the air, and it looks beautiful, and people appreciate it so much more than when you do like a new Spider-Man cartoon here in the United States and it looks like shit. Spider-Man's all blocky or the voice is not right and all that other kind of shit, man. It's not right. Now, Flash over Wonder Woman is interesting, but I don't think it's reality. I think Wonder Woman is an older character than the Flash, if I remember correctly. She's also more stable than the Flash, even though they went through that weird phase where Wonder Woman wasn't quite Wonder Woman, where she was like an arts dealer or some shit. Like it was real dumb. But ultimately, the Flash is an interesting character, but I'm not entirely sure that he's more important than Wonder Woman. I'm not that sure. I'm not sure about that. Let's see. What's the next question? Uh, Alto Johnson. Hey Mongo, are you a horror movie guy? If so, what are your top 5 favorites and what do you miss about them? I've never really been a horror movie guy. I grew up on horror movies. I only really seen some of the Halloween films, but they all run together. I've seen some of the uh, Jason Voorhees movies, but again, they all run together. And I know Jason Goes to Manhattan, which was one of my favorite ones. It's one of the few that I actually liked because I remember that scene where Jason smacked that guy's head off his shoulders. And I remember that's the only thing I remember about that fucking movie. Somebody was watching Jason versus Freddy in the what's the name on the big screens at the job today, and I was like, man, I don't remember ever seeing this, but at the same time, I do remember seeing it. So, but I've never really been a horror movie kind of guy. Um, I don't know why. It just never really appealed to me, you know. But I'm pretty sure I've seen horror movies before. Some of these horror movies. Um, your questions might be on here somewhere. They might just be deeper into the pile. Alto Johnson has a second question. Will you also do retro review of some of the movies you've seen in the past? I was thinking about that, adding it to the pop culture stream, doing movies that I watched in the past. Because there's still some. I wanted to do Creed. I sat down and I took notes on watching both Creed movies, and I wanted to talk about the new Creed in relation to Rocky, and then I lost my notes, and then I just got discouraged and was like, "Fuck it, I ain't doing it." But then I realized that I transcribed my notes into the notes pad of my phone. So I still had all of my notes from watching the movie Creed. Creed and Creed 2. So we're going to do one of those movies. We're probably going to do both of them one day. We're going to do Creed and Creed 2. So we're definitely going to do that. I just kind of forgot about it. So thankfully this question popped up and I looked in the notes pad and there it was. So, but Creed 1 and 2, yeah, I definitely want to look into that. We're probably going to do some more. But I don't know which ones. Maybe we'll do it as a group project. We'll all do like a movie club. At some point, you have to watch this movie. Like I can't tell you guys how to watch it. You might have it on DVD. You may be able to find it on HBO Max or whatever. But we all like watch a movie and then we come together to discuss it on a weekend or something on a Sunday, like a homework assignment, and everybody brings in what they thought about it. That might be fun. Like I would say a book club, but everybody reads differently. You know that was so difficult to do. I saw people doing their channel on book clubs, and I was like, man, that's so difficult because people read differently. Some people read very slow. Some people read very fast. Some people don't have good, information retained. So everybody can watch a movie an hour and a half, as long as the movie's like 5 fucking hours. Like it's not like Alexander or nothing like that. Because I'm not watching that. I can tell you that right now. I watched that movie twice. I watched it with a girlfriend of mine because she likes that kind of shit, Spartans and everything, Troy and that kind of shit. So she was getting off on it. But that movie was fucking like 3 or 4 hours. I was like, this is what was that? Once Upon a Time in America. I like it. That movie is long as fuck. It's long as hell. The first, if we do a movie club, the first movie I would like to do would probably be A Bronx Tale. That's just the one that came to my mind immediately. That I think most of us could really get something out of. Is A Bronx Tale. I love A Bronx Tale. It's a great film, and I got it on DVD. So, but I don't know. And we'll talk about it some other time. But I do want to do a movie club, and maybe at least once a week. I mean, once a month rather. We'll say watch the movie, and then maybe I'll do a community section thing where we can all post our thoughts about the movie, and then we can just go through it from there. That would be great. But it could be a movie like we could do a list of movies. We could also do wrestling matches too. We're gonna do like a list of wrestling matches that we all have to watch, or a match that we all have to watch, and we can go through it. Shawshank Redemption is very good. Friday, oh man, that's not bad. That's not bad. Um, he said he's seen both Creeds 4 times. I got Alexander on DVD too. I don't. That's the only way I could watch it, dog. That's the only way I could have finished it. That's the only way I could have finished it. Because that movie was so long. Troy is long too, but Troy is good. I didn't mind Troy being long. Troy is long, and I didn't notice it was long. Like some movies are like that. Some movies are long, but you don't notice that they're long. But you know, I felt like I was being ripped apart watching Alexander. It was not good. Um, do you ever part? Alto Johnson says, "Do you ever participate in political campaigns for elections in Detroit?" Absolutely not. I do not endorse anybody who runs for office in Detroit. 9 times out of 10, they got no chance of winning. 99% of the chance they're a fucking Democrat. Uh, Another question: do you notice Triple H has not yet released any talent since Jimmy Smith and Nigel McGuinness, and no mention of the draft? Why? Well, the draft is being pushed back till after WrestleMania. So they're going to do the draft after, which is the smarter decision. Vince doing the draft in October made no fucking sense. Doing the draft after WrestleMania makes perfect sense because it's a new season, or it's a new year. So in WWE, this goes by their fiscal year. So their fiscal year ends at WrestleMania, or it begins at WrestleMania. It's one of the two. But them doing the draft immediately afterwards makes more sense. Now, him not firing talent is, I think that he's going to slowly but surely just start releasing people one at a time. He might not do those block releases like Vince was doing. It might just be, he might even pull a Tony Khan and let some people's contracts lapse. Just say, oh, well, how about you just sit out the rest of your contract? Akira Tozawa. Like, they're not doing anything with that guy. Reggie. You could, if at the most, you could send him back to NXT. You could probably have him. Well, you can't have Reggie be a PC coach because the fuck he doesn't know anything about wrestling. But yeah, but he closed NXT UK, and all of those talents were technically released. So yes, he did. But I can tell a lot of those people are just going to get re-signed when NXT Europe starts back up. So I don't really count that because I think like people that they like Amel, unless he gets snatched up by AEW, she's probably just going to go back to NXT UK, or NXT Europe when it starts up. Like some of those people might not be coming back, but I think quite a few of them will be. And I think it was just go work the independents and make your money, and we'll re-sign you when Europe starts back up. Zaya Brookside, she's coming back. So I think most of them are going to end up coming back. So I don't really count those. But he does need to cut some talent, and I think the talent cuts will come after the draft. That's April. April cuts, spring cleaning. That's when you'll probably see the bulk of people get released. Because it'll be after the Royal Rumble. He'll know what he's really working with then in terms of talent. He'll probably assign everybody that he wants to sign, and that'll probably be it at that point. he'll get back all the toys that he wanted, and he'll start getting rid of people. All right, Top Dog got another question. What would have happened if Brett returned to WWE in 2002? Also, what would have happened if Macho Man came back to WWE? Well, Brett couldn't wrestle, so what was he going to do in 2002? He already got kicked in the head, so he wasn't going to be able to wrestle. So what was he going to do? Can't do anything. Macho Man coming back again. Macho Man was so old by this time and so beat up that I don't think he could have been able to do much of anything. He might have been back on commentary where Vince wanted him in the first place. Which he didn't want to do. Because at this point Randy Savage had destroyed his body with steroids, and the flying elbow drop had destroyed his hips, and it wasn't going to work out in terms of him being in the ring. Now he probably could have worked one match, two matches, but I don't know if it would have worked out. Jaden Young, he's got, what is this, 12 questions? Jesus. 1, do you think the Attitude Era killed wrestling and helped drive fans away? I think we've already discussed this. 2, how would you rank the OVW 4 from the least to the greatest? Well, number 1, without question, is Brock Lesnar. Number 2, John Cena. Number 3, Batista. Number 4, Shelton Benjamin. Now, I ranked them based off of their star power. Now, if that's the case, John Cena should be number 1, right? He's a bigger star than Brock. But I ranked them based off of ability and overall, because Shelton Benjamin is the best athlete of the group, easily the best wrestler of the group, the best athlete of the group. But he has the weakest microphone skills. They never really did anything with him. And if you didn't mention Shelton Benjamin in that class, Shelton Benjamin, Randy Orton. That's what I was thinking of Randy Orton. So let's restart this. I had Shelton Benjamin on the mind, not Randy, because Shelton Benjamin and Lashley, they were all there, but they're not the OVW 4. So it would still be Brock, Cena, but I would put Randy Orton then Batista. Randy Orton didn't really get his stride until 2009, but he had the super push, but they weren't really sure what they were doing. But Batista, to me, despite the fact that I love me some Batista, I really do, I think he came along better than Randy. Like, Batista matured. He was already in his 30s when he started wrestling. So he came along. They put the rocket to him pretty quickly, and smart to do so. But I think when you look at star power, I think Randy Orton may end up being a bigger star in wrestling than Batista, even though Batista is a super movie star. Because I think Batista did all he could to separate himself from wrestling for most of his career now. Even though, with the exception of coming back and doing some WrestleMania stuff, he separated mostly from wrestling. But Randy Orton's been in wrestling the whole time. He's getting better with age. The older he gets, and somehow the better he gets. But Randy will never be able to crack that rarefied air that Cena or Brock has. Like, those dudes are crossover stars. Brock is a sports figure. He played. I don't want to say he played in the NFL because he never actually played a literal down in the NFL. But he crossed over into football. There's a Brock Lesnar football card. It exists. All right, when he played for the Minnesota Vikings, it exists. He's a UFC heavyweight champion. He's an NCAA champion. He's been a world champion on 2 different continents. Of everybody in this group, he is the only one who has won a world title somewhere other than WWE. And that'd be New Japan. And in UFC. So it's like you can't topple Brock in that term of being a crossover success. He drew one of the largest gates of UFC history. It's just, you can't top that. So him and Cena are neck and neck at least. And then I would go with Randy Orton being a bigger star than Batista. Even though that probably shouldn't be the case, but I think Randy Orton just stayed around so much longer. Let's see, Travis has a question. How do you think an undersized wrestler could get over enough to be credible to the main event guys without playing the underdog role? Uh, he's got to be believable. You know, he's got to be believable in what he's doing. I don't think Chris Benoit was an underdog at all. I think Chris Benoit played a blue collar role, like he was the working man. You know, he was, the the equivalent of the ditch digger, who gets an opportunity. He was a real Rocky story, if you think about it, because Benoit was a guy who had been toiling in the independents and toiling in the bottom rungs of WCW and everywhere forever, and then he finally started getting a run at the top, and it worked out for him. But I don't think at any point Benoit was seen as an underdog. You know, I just don't think that ever occurred. I don't think that everybody ever saw him as an underdog. But the underdog just works because it's a natural stereotype story. You know, it's it was something else. Cena legit made it to Hollywood. Well, yeah, and I think Cena now is a bigger star than Brock in terms of notoriety because Cena did so much in wrestling that everybody knows who he is. He also has done enough movies and TV shows and stuff now that he has become ubiquitous in pop culture. I see people do all the time doing the John Cena pictures, and people will say, "Who is that? You can't see him," and all that kind of stuff. Um, and I think Brock being a recluse didn't help. Like Cena being everywhere and Brock being nowhere, uh, it's, it's kind of interesting. Like Cena's in everything. He's in all types of commercials. He's just everywhere. And Brock just goes home and butchers cows or some shit and just disappears for months on end. And Cena continues to grow his legend while Brock is just happy doing what he already did and going on about his day. I know underdogs can be pretty tiresome, but I think it's all about how you do it. I think they wanted what they wanted out of like a Bryan Danielson is what they got, you know. Um, they wanted an unlikely story, and that's what they got. But uh, I just hate that these guys are getting smaller and smaller. Like Danielson was pushing it because he is kind of small, but he was jacked, naturally jacked. Like he wasn't unnaturally jacked like Eddie or Benoit, who was clearly unnaturally jacked. Um, so he was well built for a guy his size. But Gargano is just plain skinny. Adam Cole is just plain skinny. Like I think Adam Cole could probably get away with being a cocky shit heel, without being an underdog. Um, but it's the moment somebody sees him stand in front of Roman Reigns or something like that, it's just going to be a bunch of shrugs, dog. I don't know, man. Have you seen Sable lately? You seen the pictures of Sable today? She's he probably still smashing her, but come on. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm in such a rush with Sable today. Um, she's probably about 50 now, dog. Like I'm pretty sure she's older than Brock, and she's an old lady now, man. She's not the she's not the she's not the young chicken that she used to be. I should stop talking about that man's wife like that. Um, I thought the whole vegan thing with Bryan Danielson was funny, but it was just Vince not just making fun of him, but it was a way of making him relatable to a certain demographic and making certain people relate to him. So yeah, him saying he was Vince talking about him being a vegan was meant to be a joke because that's how you were supposed to look at it. But the real idea behind it was to get people interested in him doing something different. That's the thing about CM Punk when he used to talk about him being straight edge. It's like, yeah, that's something people are going to make fun of. The guy doesn't even drink. But it's also something that people are going to recognize, and it's a characteristic that people will notice. People will always realize that Bryan Danielson is the vegan, wrestler. And even though it wasn't even true, he had stopped being vegan. He had, in order to bulk up, he was eating meat. You know, But they would never tell anybody he was eating meat because they would kill his vegan character. So they never mentioned it. No vegan diet, no vegan powers. Yeah, Carmelo Hayes is kind of undersized, but you can't tell. You know, he's cocky enough that it actually works. You know, he needs to keep away from Trick though, because Trick is much bigger than he is. Well, I'm glad. Matter of fact, I'm just glad that I see his comment, but I don't see his questions. That's the thing. I'm just reading the questions as they popped up. So, um, Jaden Young, they say, where do you think John Cena ranks on the all-time greatest wrestling list? Oh, oh, let's say top 15, maybe top 20. What do we talk about here? Like we talking about in ring because he probably wouldn't be that high at that point because therefore for a stretch there, Cena wasn't the best wrestler in the world. But we talking about most recognizable names. Well, he's up there with Dusty and Hogan and Undertaker and Shawn and all those guys. At that point, everybody knows who the fuck John Cena is. He's talking about names. Everybody knows who he is. But all time, I don't know. That's a good question. It's harder where you would put anybody. You know, I don't think I've seen enough wrestling to be able to put John Cena on a list anywhere higher than top 15 or whatever. And that's just looking at the people I know. Do I have him over like Ravish and Rick Rude? I don't know. That's a good question. Um, when it comes to like mid Carters, Mr. Perfect, and guys like that who I really love, and I will sit back and watch me a Ravish and Rick Rude match all day. Will I rank Cena above him? I don't know. Jeff Samuel, are you sure you're not Rachel Buck? You coming across like Rachel Buck right now. We'll give it. I've already addressed the Eva Marie thing. I don't understand why people are so excited about Eva Marie. I've already discussed that. What are my thoughts on Generation Z? I've already talked about Generation Z. Even though fans liked Batista more than John Cena, why didn't he become a pop culture star? Uh, well, Batista became a movie star, so I guess it all worked out in the end. But part of what John Cena is he did multiple different mediums. John Cena has a platinum album and has a TV show. So just there's different angles to John Cena, and he was younger, and he appealed more to the children. And Batista was a little bit more mature. So yeah. Six, you say you're not really a fan of the Attitude Era. Why not? I just think a lot of it was try hard stuff that guys were. When you look at the top of the card in the Attitude Era, it was great. You look at Rock, you look at Austin, Undertaker, uh, DX, Triple H. That stuff was great. But then you have to sit through Midian. You have to sit through Viscera, the big boss man in that era. Some of the stupid storyline like the Union, guys like Test and Albert. There's a lot of shit in those Attitude Eras that I really don't see as being that good or that great. You know, um, and to me, it just seemed like it was more of that trash than any. Yeah, the oddities. It was more trash than actual good stuff. And people remember all the good stuff. They pretend like they don't see all the trash. Now there was a point in time, and especially in the early 2000s, where the mid card got very good. When the ECW and WCW closed, and those guys came over, the mid card got so much better. But overall, nah, it was just wasn't all that great. Seven. Do you think Hollywood would get better, or do you think it will continue to die in creativity? Well, Hollywood refuses to spend money on anything that isn't already established project. They also have put all of these limitations on themselves with all of this diversity and inclusion crap. So they're just going to languish. They're going to continue to waste money and continue to, burn through all the cash that they have. I don't think Hollywood will ever turn around. I don't think they'll ever learn a lesson. They don't have to. Most of them are post capitalism corporations that they made so much money. They don't feel like they can lose. They can feel like they can lose money on luxury beliefs. It's just like the comic book industry. We don't need to sell comic books anymore. We're owned by Disney. We're owned by Warner Brothers. We don't need to sell comic books anymore. We can turn Superman gay, Robin gay, kill Spider-Man off or whatever. We can do whatever we want because we don't have to sell these fucking comic books anymore. You know. 8. Do you think Stone Cold was too overbooked and protected in 98, 99? Yes, I think him pinning Kane. Him pinning Big Show. Big Show wasn't even on the roster a month, and I think Austin had already beat him. You know, he beat him clean on TV too with a stunner. I'm just like, come on. Like the Steve Austin push is actually, it didn't run me off, but I was it was one of those I was rolling my eyes situation when he beat Undertaker and Kane in one match, or they couldn't beat him in one match. I was just like, get the fuck out of here, like just get the fuck out of here, please. He's wrestling Undertaker and Kane. He's not losing. Like, oh, this is some horse shit. Do you think adult wrestling fans? The question got cut off because my device cut off. This says, do you think adult wrestling fans can be childish and not adjust to the times, like their hatred of Cena? Well, yes, I think that's a good way of putting it. A lot of people didn't really want to adjust what they wanted. They would rather hate than just let the kids have what they have because the kids really enjoyed Cena. It's the same thing with Roman. It was the same thing, over and over again. They just want to turn everybody heel because to them they want to be able to cheer the heels, which is dumb. What's your golden era versus Ruthless era dream matches? Randy Savage versus Eddie Guerrero, Randy Savage versus Shawn Michaels, Randy Savage versus Kurt Angle, Ravage and Rick Rude versus Kurt Angle, Ravage and Rick Rude versus Shawn Michaels. There's just so many of those. It's probably just going to be Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio and versus the various mid card guys like Kurt Hennig and Kerry Von Erich. Hopefully you have both his feet, unless you mean Texas Tornado, which he only have one foot, which it sucks. Okay, Raw X Star. How should Kane retire? Quietly in a rumble, putting Summer over, or what? I think Kane is already retired. I think he retired quietly and basically just walked off into the sunset, and that was that. And I think that was the right thing to do. Should Kane wrestle one more match and lose? I don't know if anybody wants to see that. I'm not so sure anybody really wants to see it. But it would be nice if we got a chance to kill the Kane character off and then Bray Wyatt got to do that. That would be interesting. D-Mac, there's a lot of controversy about the Ariel Helwani podcast with Tony Khan. People are lighting him up. I didn't listen to it yet, but I can see why people feel like he can't be impartial due to his ties with WWE / Nick Khan. The critique I saw the most is that he a softball interview with Triple H. What did he make of all this? The only question he didn't ask was about the Vince McMahon thing, about all the hush money or whatever. That's pretty much the only question he didn't ask about. He asked about Bray Wyatt. He asked about Sasha Banks. He asked about his heart condition, his health issues. He asked about the transition. He asked about all that stuff. The only thing he didn't ask him was about, hey, what was the deal with all of this, the sex scandals and everything, and what do you think about that? Because those are legitimately issues that probably non-disclosure agreements are covered up. Which means that they don't have any real details about them. The likelihood that Triple H knows anything about that is minimal. Now, when it comes to Tony Khan, I can say that it's probably a same thing, non-disclosure agreement that's in place for why he can't discuss what was going on with the Elite and CM Punk. All this type of shit where you're talking about there's a lawsuit and all that. There's no lawsuit. If somebody had filed a lawsuit against AEW or something like that, it would be public information. So there was no lawsuit filed. It's just these guys are trying to help make this thing go away by not answering any questions about it. Now, you could think that Ariel Helwani is the shield, Look, that's just what people do. You want to think he admitted that he used to work with Nick Khan, or Nick Khan used to be his agent. So it's not like he hid it from anybody, you know. But that doesn't change the fact that if Tony Khan thought he was that much of a shill, why did he go on the show in the first place? He went on the show because he wanted to advertise his shows. But you have to ask some questions. You have to answer some questions, and he didn't refuse to answer any questions. Now his minions think that this was some kind of setup. It wasn't a setup. If he'd have told Ariel Helwani, there's I can't discuss certain details, but here's what I can discuss. Then Ariel Helwani wouldn't have had anything to say. You know, some things that like he doesn't know. What CM Punk was thinking. But when Ariel Helwani asked him clear as day, what were you thinking during all this? Tony Khan said, well, I can't answer that question. What do you mean you can't answer that question? It's not about anybody. It's about you. What were you thinking? So now that made me think that there's probably some kind of non-disparagement clause in whatever contract all these people signed to not talk about this. There's probably a non-disparagement clause in there, and he probably couldn't talk about it without disparaging, you know, or probably just couldn't talk about it at all. But um, calling Ariel Helwani names and attacking them and everything, it was one big joke. Like these guys they're looking for any reason to invalidate a good criticism, which is that Tony Khan gets softball interviews all the time. It's the exact same interview he gets when he goes to Busted Open Radio. He just sits back and he runs his fucking mouth and nobody says anything about it. As a follow-up, he says, I know that there are others in the IWC media who have connections with, done some work for, have contacts in both companies. This includes podcasters and journalists. Do you think that those individuals should be upfront about prior work and relationships with these talents in these companies? I think so. That one guy, what's his name? John Alba. He was a wrestling journalist and a podcaster and all that. He was friends with Daniel Garcia, and he said it straight up front that he was friends with Daniel Garcia. And they worked together in the Northeast wrestling promotions, and he was going to be biased towards Daniel Garcia. So that's just kind of how it is, and I respect that. I don't expect you to fake criticize your friends in order to have objectivity. I think you should just be honest. And, these people are your friends. You have relationships with them. That's going to color your conversations or whatever. And that's what I liked about Ariel Helwani's talk with Nick Khan. He didn't try to cover up that he knew Nick Khan previously and that they had worked together and all that kind of stuff. He came right on out with it. So now at that point, you have to make the decision whether you're going to continue to listen to him or not. He edited it. He said, by the way, I get kind of not talking about certain things, especially things that may have legal ramifications. I also think that he is accustomed to having more friendly media that rarely asks tough questions. Also think that it is normal for an interviewer to just feel frustrated with not getting answers. For me, the solution is for the journalist to ask the right tough questions to everybody. I agree. I think that you do have to ask tough questions, but I don't understand what some people consider a tough question is what other people consider a tough question. It's going to be two different things. I think the only question that Triple H could have been asked about that would have been considered tough to everybody is going to be necessarily about the whole Vince stuff. I mean, we've talked about the Saudi Arabia shit to death. They have fans in Saudi Arabia. They're being paid by the government to do these shows. So what? We're over it. It has nothing to do with Jamal Khashoggi or anything else. They're not running the country. They're running a show in the country. Who gives a fuck? Just like they do shows for the American military. They're not responsible for what the military does. They do those shows because they have fans in the military. Everybody who has their personal feelings about Saudi Arabia or the troops or whatever, that's just your personal feelings about the shit. That has nothing to do with how they should run their business. So Tony Khan, of course, talking about people who are more likely going to be coming back, and he's going to at least try to talk them into coming back because it's better for his business. Him not going out there and burying them or, making himself look bad is probably for the best rather than going out there and shitting the bed. All right. Mitch Colburn. Am I the only one who thinks the Attitude Era is overrated? We have so many questions about the Attitude Era here. Jeez Louise. We talked about the Attitude Era already. Mr. VHG, what's your favorite wrestling title belt? I think I've already answered that question too. So that's all the questions that were in the queue. Any questions that were not in the queue? Oh yeah, Brandon Thurston, his buddy works for AEW. The guy is searching, who I think actually co-owns the site that he works for, is a co-owner or is a friend with Tony Khan. And funny how that worked out, right? Funny how that works out. That your friend works in AEW, you're a super fan of AEW, right? Funny how that works out, bud. And nobody's gonna say anything about that. Nobody's gonna say a damn thing about it. That's unfair. That's unfair. Let's all attack Ariel Helwani for saying that the Tony Khan interview was tough because Tony Khan doesn't like to ask any questions. So that's ridiculous. All right, 2 hours and 10 minutes. Whoa, we got a lot done. So are you guys ready to wrap it up, or you got something else? It says, let's get a rando mondo topic. All right, a random topic. Okay, let's see what we can find here. Let's see what we can find here on some randomness. I'm going through. Now, did y'all know that Rolling Stone did a series of interviews called Don't Call Me Jobber? And this was from 2015. They did like 4 interviews with like job guys, like the Brooklyn Brawler, Barry Horowitz, some other guys. Barry Horowitz, Brooklyn Brawler, Barry Horowitz, Gilbert, and there's some more people too. Jim Powers of the Young Stallions. Oh, there was 5, and there was there was 5. There's 4. Barry Gilbert and Barry Hardy. So let's go through this interview that Rolling Stone magazine did with the Brooklyn Brawler. Don't Call Me Jobber. March 11th, 2015. I don't know what I had this stuff just sitting around for. I just had this shit just sitting around in here. But they talk about Steve Lombardi, who is the Brooklyn Brawler. Now, some people have said some unsavory things about Brooklyn Brawler, why he had a long run in WWE, why he's still there. There's been some unsavory things said about him. Oh, WG Phil got questions. He says, I'll do my questions here. For War Games, who are the 5 wrestlers who should face the Bloodline? Let's see. It would make sense for it to be Kevin Owens. It would make sense for it to be maybe who the Street Profits? Not the Street Profits, but the Usos. So it would have to be like Kevin Owens. It would have to be Madcap and Ricochet, maybe, because they've been feuding with Solo Sikoa and Sami Zayn. That's a suck ass team already off rip. That's not very good. Maybe Braun Strowman. I don't know. Like I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I'm not sure if all 5 members of the Bloodline are going to wrestle though. I think it's probably only going to be 4. I think they're probably not going to have Roman in that match. I think they're going to get away with it. Get away from Roman being in that match. So something tells me they're going to find a way to get Roman out of that. Okay. Did you hear about the women's pay-per-view and the King of the Queen? I'm guessing Queen of the Ring? Well, they had the King of the Ring at what event last year? Was it Crown Jewel? That's when they had King of the Ring last year? Or did they have it at a different event? Because this feels like it should be King of the Ring time if it's going to be a yearly thing. And I think Triple H probably will bring back the King of the Ring because people wanted it. And that's the one fan servicey thing he could do is bring back the Queen of the Ring. I did hear there will probably be a Mae Young Classic next year. but that's not a big deal, you know. Um, there probably should have always been Mae Young Classics. I didn't see why they stopped doing them. Why did they stop doing them? I don't know. Women's pay per view. I still don't think they're going to do that. I don't believe at all they're going to do a women's pay per view. Triple H hasn't reversed the whole thing with them being on only having one women's match per show. He hasn't even been able to reverse that yet. But this is a very, very, very long interview with Steve Lombardi, aka the Brooklyn Brawler. Maybe we'll do it some other time because I'm just looking at this and I haven't read it in a long time. Um, I don't really want to go through it. I looked at it and it was like, oh, what a daunting task. Especially considering I've been up all day already. So let's see what we got in the bookmarks. So yes, as a matter of fact, I do have a random topic we can discuss. There was a statement that I saw that I thought was very interesting. I screenshotted it. Let me find it. Okay. Did I find it? Wait. No, I don't see it. I don't see it, but I'm trying to remember what it was. I'm trying to remember and put it in its proper context. But the what it is a lot of people have been asking what happened to Impact. That it's that picture of Impact in the UK and it's filled to the rafters, and then there's Impact recently, and people saying what happened. And I have been getting a lot of people. Somebody actually dared to screenshot my comments and didn't ask me to clarify my point when I said that what happened to Impact was mismanagement by Dixie Carter and Anthem. So then they said, okay, well, we understand Dixie, and Velvet Sky actually came out and doubled down on the Dixie thing by saying, it was Dixie's fault. She killed the Spike TV deal. But people don't understand why I keep saying Anthem. What did Anthem ever do wrong? Anthem never did anything wrong. And I would tell people, I gave them a breakdown of what I think Anthem was doing wrong. And I'm not saying people will agree with me, but I thought that it was pretty interesting that most people consider that what Anthem is doing is to be good. Anthem is not good. Not really. So let's talk about that. Why do I feel like Anthem is mismanaging Impact? Now, I could just read all of the tweets I put out there, but I'm going to give you the gist of the idea from it. In 2017, 2018, there were still stories coming out that Impact was having problems paying talent. What ended up happening is the president of Anthem or whoever, some top guy, Ed Northrum from Anthem, he started coming out making these public comments about how they were changing the pay structure and changing the pay dates and all this kind of stuff. Talent was being paid 6 weeks after the event or when the event aired or whatever the hell. And then they were going to pay talent, at the moment of time or whatever. So that was supposed to fix the pay thing. That was 2017, 2018, but it was still going on from the end of Dixie into the Anthem era where wrestlers were not being paid. So you started seeing wrestlers leave. People started to leave. The reputation of Impact became that you're not going to get paid if you work there. Even though it was Anthem at this point. Then there was the whole fuck that owl situation where you had Matt Hardy and Rebby, his wife, getting into it with Anthem about Anthem suing Ring of Honor and WWE over the usage of the broken Matt Hardy character. That was a PR disaster. That was a PR nightmare. People were reaming. They were literally buying shirts saying, fuck that owl. over Impact. Then from there, I try to explain to people that Anthem is fucking over Impact by keeping it on a small niche cable network. Now, a lot of Impact fans seem to think that it's great. Impact is owned by a TV station, by a cable outlet, and they can just keep Impact on there. They don't have to worry about getting canceled or anything else. And I just provided them with the flip side to that argument. Meaning, the flip side is when you are a wrestling promotion, you make the bulk of your money off of what's called media rights fees, basically broadcasting rights. WWE gets like $100 million for Raw, $50 million for NXT, and however many millions for SmackDown, right? AEW gets $40 million or $50 million or whatever for Dynamite, a couple of more million for Rampage. At this point, they could, at the end of their contract, they can negotiate with TBS or TNT. They can negotiate with the network for more money. They can negotiate with other networks, which could drive up the cost. In other words, AEW can take Dynamite to Apple or Amazon or whatever. If the money is right, they can create profit that way. It allows them to grow. All right. WWE is big on that. Impact, Ring of Honor, and WCW did not have that option. Because they are owned by the networks that they are on. They can't go anywhere. Okay? So that means Ring of Honor couldn't grow under Sinclair because it couldn't go anywhere. It was stuck. It was a potted plant. Stuck in the house. You had to feed it, water it, and you hope that it grew. But it didn't grow. It fucking died. It went the other way. WCW was the same way. They were pumping millions and millions of dollars into WCW. But without the media rights fees, it couldn't really grow. Without strong brand recognition, it couldn't really grow. Impact is in the exact same situation. Impact is owned by Anthem, which owns Access TV. It can't go anywhere. It's stuck on Access TV. So even if you wanted to get people to watch this show, they have to watch it on Access TV. So at that point, you have to realize Access TV was ranked 99 out of 124 cable networks. Access was ranked 99. Impact's ratings are somewhere between 85,000 to 100,000 viewers, and they do an infinitesimal number in the 18 to 49. They do a number that is so small, most sites don't even bother to follow it. Access TV does not have the reach or the lineage that USA or TBS or any other network does. That being said, you keep your small niche product on your small niche platform, you get small niche outcomes. There is no way that Impact can support the system that it was 15 years ago. Can't support it today. It's different. It's completely different. It went from being a tiger to being a house cat. Right? It's it's not good. And this is, to me, poor management by Anthem. They could, at the very least, still own the promotion and farm it out and just say, fuck Access. But the thing is, it's the highest rated show on Access. So what does it tell you that Impact does 1/7 of the ratings of NXT and still manages to be the number one rated show on the entire network? NXT was doing 636,000 viewers. People were talking like you should just cancel the show. Impact was doing 120 some odd thousand at the same time. And it has been going backwards ever since then. Not even, the crazy thing is, everybody don't even have Access TV. All right? Like, that's the weird thing. Access TV is not even on every cable system. So you have no reach, no range, no promotion, no stars, uh, mundane, boring creative. Even if you don't think that the creative is bad, okay, it's not bad. It's boring though. There's no excitement. There's no youthful energy. There's nothing going on with Impact. It's dead. Maybe the roster doesn't even know it yet. At this point, I think they said 7 people left Impact after the Bound for Glory taping. Chelsea Green, Matt Taven, Vincent, um, Mike Bennett, Maria, and some other people. Now they got Chris Bay to sign for the long term. Okay, cool. But look at all the talent you let leave. Look, I'm of course pissed because there's this talk about Matt Taven coming to WWE, and I'm not happy about that. But I'm at the position where I'm sitting here saying you can't keep talent. So it's clearly a thing. Maybe it's a pay issue. When you are something like Impact and you have that lineage and you have that big sort of backstory where everybody should want to be the Impact World Champion because that represents TNA or whatever thing. You know, that history of that wrestling promotion. They're not even in the same free agent pool as AEW and WWE. There are people who would rather be in WWE's catering than in Impact's main events. There are people who would rather be wrestling on Dark than be in the main event of Impact show. You literally had, was it 27-year-old Sammy Guevara shitting on Impact's X Division title at a time within the last 2 years. This guy saying he's going to go to Impact, but he's going to do whatever he wants. Impact just doesn't have the panache, the gravitas to make any real moves in the wrestling space. And it sucks. It sucks. Because, and I'm going to keep it real, GCW is probably bigger than Impact right now. GCW can go from town to town. GCW can run an arena and fill it up. It's probably not that much bigger than Impact's arenas, but the energy is there. You actually hear about shows that GCW runs. There's bigger stars like Jeff Jarrett and John Moxley and those kind of guys. They're calling in people from Mexico. They got Psycho Clown on these shows, Commander on these shows, fucking Impact. You know, they got Laredo Kid and they got Black Torusa, whatever, but they're not doing anything with these guys. It's like the energy is 100% behind GCW. And part of it is the rebel, Daredevil style of these guys doing death matches and shit like that. But it's just a youthful energy that's around something like GCW that's not around Impact, you know? And it's hard to explain, but it just goes to show that Impact is in a lot of fucking trouble, you know? And right now, it's just a data set for some guy to decide one day that he don't want to deal with it anymore, you know? And his Impact is a bus stand league. You stay there for a bit, then catch a WWE, AEW, Japan bus. That's exactly what happens, you know? It's an Uber driver. It's a jitney. Let's put it like that. It's not even an Uber driver. It's a jitney. It's like Scott D'Amore hangs out in, the parking lot of Universal Studios waiting for tired young wrestlers to come out of the AEW dark tapings and offer them jobs in Impact for a little bit. We come work for us for 2 months. Go hang out at the NXT tryouts. Hey, come work for us for 2 months. It's like, bro, this sucks. When you have people who literally don't got nothing else going, they just don't want to be there. Like Lady Frost, like she just up and quit Impact. Like she ain't got shit else going on. It's not like she's, so wanted in AEW or WWE. She just don't want to be there anymore. And it's like, yeah, I quit. I'm out of here. Like, wow. Like it's one thing if somebody becomes super over an Impact and then they just want to cash in and jump ship. That's not even the case. It's just people are not coming to Impact, and then if they do come, they don't stay. They stay long enough just for the check to clear, and they get the fuck out. So Impact has the same problem the AWA had, if I recall. Growing up, everyone eventually left. Yeah, and I've talked to Impact fans about this, and what they'll tell me is, well, you don't know anything about wrestling because that's how the wrestling business used to be. And I say, yes, wrestlers are transitory creatures. That is absolutely true. But this is the difference between people who want jobs and people who want careers. All right? People who want jobs don't care where they work. They will go work in any wrestling promotion. People who want careers are willing to stay somewhere for the long term. Ring of Honor was at least a place where people had careers. A guy like Jonathan Gresham, a guy like Jay Lethal could be there for years and years, build up his reputation, build up his name, and be paid handsomely for it, at least to a degree. Well enough. WWE is the ultimate career place. You do 5 or 10 years in WWE, you can retire. AEW is becoming one of those places where, for upper crust talent, you could do a decent amount of time there and you could be good. For people who want a career, you could do that. I don't see Impact as being a place where a guy can get a career. It's a job place. It's the McDonald's of wrestling without the success. It's like the Coney Island, or what some people call a bodega of wrestling. You come in here, you're a cashier, you sweep the floor a little bit, and you go on about your day. You go do something else. And until that perception changes, it's not gonna change how people view Impact. People are always going to view Impact as being the red-headed stepchild of the wrestling business. It may outlive us all, but there's going to be 40 people in the stands still remembering the good old days of TNA. It's like that shit'll never be the same again. They have to start spending some money, which means they have to start making some money, or Anthem has to increase their stipend. They have to increase their goddamn profile. They have to get off of Access TV. They have to, advertise. There's a lot of stuff that they need to do to get Impact back where it should be. You know, and it's hard to tell. You know, it's hard to tell Impact fans the truth because they don't want to hear it. It's not just Dixie fucked up the money with Spike TV. Yes, that's part of it. That's a big part of it. That's what's caused the whole Anthem shakedown and everything. But right now, Impact literally is what ROH is. ROH was. It's something. It's a line item on this sheet for a mega corporation. That's all it is. They don't care whether it makes money or not. They make their money doing other things. So this is a pet project. They don't have no desire to invest in it because if they don't make that money back, that's going to be a problem. So they have no incentive to spend any money on it. All right. If that will be all, we will be closing up shop. 2 hours, 33 minutes. We did pretty good. Thanks everybody for popping in. For those of you who came in late, we did the Jacobin article where a bunch of socialists took shots at WWE. I read that. And then we did Q&A. And then I did a random rant about Impact. You're welcome back on Sunday for our pop culture stream. We're going to be talking about the death of Cartoon Network. And we're also going to be talking about, of course, catching up with my anime journey into Naruto Shippuden, as well as Inuyasha. And maybe we're going to do some actual manga. I'll talk about Record of Ragnarok, Sakamoto Days. What else am I reading? Chain Soldier. Maybe some comic books I read at Kaya. It's pretty good. King Spawn. Some of the other things that I've been reading. And we'll see what happens. Let's see. Lion 2012 has a statement. It says, Impact has become Kansas City Royals and Pittsburgh Pirates of Wrestling. They feed the Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Red Sox. Yeah, it's a small market team. You know, that's kind of how it is in college basketball, college football and stuff like that too. There's big market teams and there's smaller market teams. Small market teams they just basically are the job guys. They fill the NBA with guys who sit on the bench. You know, like that's the best thing for them. They bring in guys who sit on the bench. And I always ask people, whenever you think somebody's a superstar in wrestling and they say they work at Impact, what would they be doing if they weren't in Impact? I know a lot of people are going to get upset with you when I say this, but where is Josh Alexander if he's not Impact World Champion? Take exactly what Josh Alexander is doing right now and put him in WWE. Where is he at on the card? Put him in AEW. Where is he at on the card? You know, just be honest with yourself. If Josh Alexander was doing exactly what he was doing right now, if he was doing that in WWE, would he even be on TV? If he was doing exactly what he's doing right now in AEW, would he be outside of AEW Dark? No. That's where I say something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong. They need to they need to do something. They need to bring in there's people who are discouraged, you know, and there's plenty of young talent out there. WWE is constantly having tryouts. I'm talking constantly having tryouts. And furthermore, that there is no excuse for Impact is because MLW keeps finding talent. You know, MLW found Jacob Fatu. They found Alexander Hammerstone. They found Richard Holiday. You know, they found Devon Eriks. They found some talent in MLW. And why the fuck Impact can't find any? Like why Impact can't find a diamond in the rough who wants to be Impact World Champion, who wants to be there and spend some time there. Why is it that we have to use New Japan guys or Noah guys or whatever the hell? Yeah, MJF was found in MLW before he got snatched up and brought to AEW. You know, why is that? Let's answer that question. You know, let's talk about why Impact is having such a hard time in free agency. They can't attract talent and they can't retain talent. Every time somebody leaves WWE or something to go to Impact, they get that whole I was treated well in Impact, so I felt like I owed them one. And Impact is the rebound girlfriend. It's the rebound. You go there to get your dick wet, and then you jump back out. Mia Yim did that exact thing. She was talking about how she was sitting at home and how she gained weight and she was unhappy with herself. And Impact treated her well the last time she was there, so she went to Impact when she left WWE. Okay, well she did like 1, 2, or like 6 months. Not even 6 months, probably 3 months in Impact. Probably not even 3 months, probably 2 months. And then she's gone right now already. She's gone again. Chelsea Green. Oh, I can't believe I was Impact. I was a Knockouts champion in Impact. And WWE, I can't even get on TV. What's going on here? She goes on it. She goes to Impact. A year later, she's out. I mean, what do you do? What do you do? Impact has no TV contract to be competitive. The station owns them. So no new negotiation for TV. Like, yes, that's exactly correct. They don't operate in an open market. They're in a closed market. They can't negotiate for a higher pay. And negotiate with who? The people who own them? You know? It's just it makes no sense. MJF better not turn face. I don't think MJF is going to turn face. I think that it's going to be another swerve. Just like they swerved and thought Luchasaurus was going to turn face, or Jamie Hayter or Daniel Garcia. No, this is going to be a way of making him a bigger heel. When he eventually swerves on the fans again. Just trying to get people to believe in that shit. Lady Frost was doing Toronto shows instead of Impact. A joke, right? An absolute joke. Lady Frost is not even like an in-demand female wrestler. In the age of everybody wants to have female wrestlers on the roster, and she's not bad. Let's not get it wrong. I don't want to shit on her or anything. but she's not like some in-demand female wrestler who matters all that much. And they couldn't even keep her on the roster. You know, she requested her release, and I think they still won't give it to her or something like that. So it's like, what are you holding on to this girl for? You know, like if she wants to go, let her go. I don't get it. You know, like I can't believe they had like Mercedes Martinez in Impact. She was there for a cup of coffee and was gone. You know, and I think that's a big issue when it comes to this Tony Khan Ring of Honor thing. Is you got Tony Khan soaking up a lot of people for AEW, but he's also soaking up a lot of people for Impact too. You know, well, he's soaking up a lot of people from for Ring of Honor too. Like, there's a lot of people who are going to go work for Tony Khan's Ring of Honor who would probably be better off just going to Impact and putting in that effort and trying to become stars and stuff. But what can I say? Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure she's a nice girl. You know, Lady Frost. Top Dog, why do you keep posting the same question about Stone Cold and Roman and all these guys? We already talked about Steve Austin being over pushed. You guys need to start coming into the top of the stream. Um, if the wrestlers who flop on both promotions, is it the company who sucks or the wrestler themselves? Well, clearly it's the wrestler. That's what used to make me laugh so hard about guys who would blame Vince for their terrible push or whatever. They would just be like, "Oh, they didn't want to do anything with me. They didn't want to do anything with me," and then they go to Impact, get the super push, and then still flame out. The Mr. Kennedys, the Rhinos, Velveteen Dream, Orlando Jordan, so many guys. Um, yeah, Tony Khan did steal Thunder Rosa and Ricky Starks. Um, he stole and Brian Pillman Jr. and now he's doing nothing with none of them. You know, well, Thunder Rosa is technically still the women's champion, I guess. But Ricky Starks sat on the bench for like a year and a half. Brian Pillman just lost the rights to his name. He can't even use Varsity Blondes anymore. You know, that poor fucking guy. You know, Brian Pillman Jr. went through hell to get out of that MLW contract to work exclusively for AEW. And they buried him in his hometown in front of his mom. And he has not been able to recover since. And I know some people don't think he's very good, but I think there's a spark there. There's something there. They're just not good at talent development. AEW only wants people who are already 10, 20 years in the business. You know, you telling you, you could do some real damage if you was Impact and you were smart. You know, you could do some real damage to AEW. I'm talking, you could decimate their AEW Dark division. There's a lot of young talent there that are not developed, that are not put together. They're not helping Abaddon. She went and got herself into fantastic shape. You mean to tell me that you are Impact and you have Rosemary and you're not trying to bring in Abaddon to feud with Rosemary? Why not? You can't tell me Abaddon has some kind of contract that you can't get around. You know, can you tell me they're gonna bring in Maxie and Paler to do a feud with like Rosemary or something like that? These supernatural monster characters that you could bring in to feud with Rosemary or somebody else on the roster? They're just not thinking. You know, I'm telling you, the opportunities are there. NWA is just the NWA is like I'm about to give up on the NWA, dog. When I heard that they was going to turn Matt Cardona versus Trevor Murdoch, which is a match I really didn't want to see, and they were turning that into a triple threat match, I was just like, man, take NWA to the fucking guillotine. It's over. You know, they're doing everything they possibly can to kill this business. And Corgan doesn't give a shit anymore. You know, Corgan doesn't care anymore, dog. Corgan's done. And I still think um, they have a better roster than Impact to some degree because they found Camille. And Camille's not the best promo in the world, but she got a unique look. You know, she's marketable. Tom Latimer is marketable, unique looks. Nick Aldis. You know, if the core players of NWA jump ship to Impact, Nick Aldis, Tom Latimer, Chris Adonis, a couple other guys, maybe Odinson, Impact will be infinitely better. It will be infinitely better. Impact just doesn't have any juice right now. It's just got no juice. Horse for no name. I think people like Madcap Moss, Lacey Evans, Baron Corbin should go to NWA. People like them have been MIA since Triple H took over. Yeah, you know, oof. You're talking about a financial hit, though. You're talking about a financial hit. Now, Madcap Moss, I don't know. I think Triple H might find something to do with him. But Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin, I can definitely see them being people that Triple H is probably going to be thinking about letting go. Um, Mainly because they were Vince personalities, and these were guys that Vince pushed for a long time because they were versatile team players. But Triple H is looking at, I don't know, indie darlings. Lorenzo Granger would love to see Deonna Purrazzo back. I just don't think her style works. Well, her style works in Triple H's WWE, but she didn't even really get a run in NXT before they jobbed her out a bunch of times. The truth is, Triple H didn't get it. Vince certainly didn't get what the virtuoso was supposed to be. And I think Triple H will be more apt to let her do her thing. But I just don't see Deonna Purrazzo as being a WWE level star. I think that she was great in Impact, and I think she should still be great in Impact. But her greatness being relegated to the mid card of Impact television shows is just stupid. They got to get her some talent to work with. She's wrestled everybody that's already there. Top dog, do you think Braun Breaker, Grayson Waller, etc. will be booked good under Triple H? I don't think Grayson Waller would be. You know, I'm looking at how he's booking the Miz. I'm looking at how he's booking guys who are more persona over in ring stuff, and I don't think so. I don't think so. Braun Breaker will be fine. Tiffany Stratton will probably be fine. Grayson Waller, I'm concerned. Grayson Waller, I'm definitely concerned. He's not an in ring guy. Like he can do the in ring stuff, but he's not really an in ring guy. You know. So it's gonna be really unfortunate. All right, y'all. Thanks everybody for stopping by. I appreciate that. Changing Roman's glove. Well, are they trying to make some more action figures? Because it went from gold to red. The shirts are still red. The shirts are like red and white. So maybe the white glove. Maybe it should be white now. SmackDown, to have the SmackDown blue would not be too bad though. But thank you everybody. I'm trying to get out of here because I feel like I got to sneeze or use the bathroom. So, uh, like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you all again Wednesday. Not Wednesday, Sunday for the pop culture stream. Of course, it will be regularly scheduled programming. A SmackDown review on Saturday. Um, Saturday is also Halloween Havoc. No, is that this week or that's next week? I'm sorry. This week there is no wrestling show on the weekend, so at least I don't think so. All right. Thank you for your time. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.